December, a light snow has been falling in Philadelphia, but almost every seat will still be filled at Lincoln Financial Field for the Eagles against the Seahawks.
Do you know me? Not many people do. I was drafted in 2000. But I'm not in the military. I've run each of the last 5 years. But I'm not a politician. I've earned a couple of free trips to Hawaii, but not from frequent flyer miles. Although last year, I barely lost a race to a jet.
Curtis Martin wins by 1 yard.
Then there's my resume. I'm the only guy in NFL history to have 15 or more touchdowns in 5 straight years.
That's 20 TDs in 11 games.
Still nothing? I work with some pretty big guys, and we're making some noise in our profession. Still don't know me? Well, after tonight, you will. I've always wanted to say this. Are you ready for some football?
With power and options that are out of sight, ABC's assembling the big game tonight. The Seahawks can attack on the ground or above. The Eagles fight back with some brotherly love. The fans are up for the ride of their life. They're coming on the line for a showdown tonight. Hit it. Come on and hit it. Come on and get ready. Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party. Al and John have the key. Let's get this baby started. Better buckle up. Super Bowl 40's in sight. Here for Monday night. An almost surreal setting, under the lights, in the snow, out onto the field at Lincoln Financial Field come the Philadelphia Eagles as they get ready to take on the man you just met in our open, Shaun Alexander and the Seattle Seahawks on Monday Night Football. Al Michaels, along with John Madden, Sam Ryan, welcome to Philadelphia, where it's been a very difficult season for the Eagles, who've been to 4 straight NFC Championship games. They lost on opening night to Atlanta. Donovan McNabb got hurt. He played through the pain up until 3 weeks ago, and finally his season is now over. He's had surgery. We'll see him again next year. 2 other Pro Bowlers are also on injured reserve for Philadelphia, and you know about Terrell Owens, no longer part of the equation. Eagles 5-6, trying to stay alive in the playoff hunt. It'll be very tough. Meanwhile, Seattle with a record of 9-2. That's the best mark in the National Football Conference. The Seahawks have won 7 straight games. And with St. Louis losing to Washington yesterday, the Seahawks have clinched a playoff spot. They have won the NFC West. They've guaranteed a January date at home. And John, Mike Holmgren is in his 7th season. He's kind of treaded water. They've been to the playoffs, haven't won a playoff game. Now all of a sudden a breakout year. What's the difference?
Well, you know, I think they have so much more confidence. I mean, you just look at the way they act. You talk to them, you watch them play. This is a totally different team. I think maybe they have the best offensive line in football. Matt Hasselbeck throws the ball. Shaun Alexander runs it, and that's a pretty potent offense. And then on defense, they're young, they're inexperienced, but they play very hard and very fast.
They'll meet a Philadelphia team tonight that bears no semblance to the Philly team over the last 4 years. Mike McMahon is now the quarterback. What will the Eagles look like tonight and for the balance of the season?
Well, you know, I know one thing. They're going to have a lot more balance between run and pass on offense. You know, that's Andy Reid kind of got away from the run with Donovan McNabb, and they were pass. Then they lose him. Now they bring in Mike McMahon, and I think they're going to have more running the ball. And I think that Mike McMahon is going to run the ball more. Andy Reid said that he's a slow starter. He wants to get him off to a fast start by letting him run movement passes.
They're trying to stay alive in the playoff hunt. They beat Green Bay last week. But tonight, the Seahawks, tops in the NFC at the moment, in their sole Monday night appearance of the season against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now tonight's FedEx Air and Ground stats. The quarterbacks, Matt Hasselbeck and Mike McMahon, have posted these numbers. And on the ground, Seattle's Shaun Alexander is the primary contender for the NFL rushing title, while Brian Westbrook is the Eagles' featured back.
Get Comcast Digital Cable with HDTV to make every ABC Monday Night Football game a great experience. Comcast, the official HDTV choice for ABC's Monday Night Football.
The Visa Skycam tonight providing the most unique and compelling shots inside the huddles or right above the action, taking you where no other camera can. Tonight's coaching matchup, Seattle's Mike Holmgren looking to defeat his former assistant Andy Reid for the first time in 2 tries as the Eagles host the Seahawks on Monday Night Football.
Of the National Football League.
Very often, of course, we'll tell you weather is no factor. Tonight, weather is a factor. It's 33 degrees. It's been snowing for about 2.5 hours. The conditions on the field. Let's check in with Sam Ryan. Sam?
You're right, Al. It's starting to come down a lot, pretty hard right now. They had the field covered, tarped until about 6:30. Once they removed it by 6:40, that's when it really started snowing. It's been on and off since then, getting heavier now. The wind really not a factor, about 6 miles an hour. I did speak to both quarterbacks moments ago. Neither one concerned about the snow or the wind, although Matt Hasselbeck told me he's concerned about the center of the field. He said it's a little sloppy, could make it difficult for the guys in the center. Do keep in mind, Al and John, this field has heating coils underneath, so it may not stick, the snow may not stick to the field, gentlemen.
John, advantage offense or defense?
I think if it's not windy, it's advantage offense. I learned that years ago from George Blandon. He told me, he said that the pass rushers, can't rush, and the defenders don't know what patterns you're running, so you have an advantage on the pass rush and on the pass receiving.
Josh Scobie will run it back. The Seattle Seahawks will take the ball. The kick by Akers is fielded at the 12-yard line, and Scobie with a good run back out to the 36-yard line. The Seahawks, #1 in the league in yards per game. Here's their offense.
Matt Hasselbeck, Boston College.
Sean Alexander, the University of Alabama.
Max Strong, University of Georgia.
Bobby Ingram, Penn State.
Joe Jervicius, Penn State.
Jeremy Stevens, UW.
Walter Jones, Florida State. Steve Hutchinson, University of Michigan.
Rob Toback, Wazoo.
Chris Gray, Auburn.
Sean Locklear, NC State.
Very good offensive line, especially that left side where Jones and Hutchinson, the left tackle and left guard, are great. Hasselbeck will throw short on the first play of the game to Jeremy Stevens for a gain of 3. Let's take a look at the Philly D.
Javon Curse, Florida Gators.
The Tank, the Northern Illinois University.
Darwin Walker, University of Tennessee.
Trent Cole, University of Cincinnati.
Mr. Jones, 0055, 1817, Michigan.
Jeremiah Trotter, Stephen F. Austin State.
Keith Adams, Clemson.
Sheldon Brown, South Carolina. Michael Lewis, Colorado.
Brian Dawkins, Clemson.
Roger Hood, Auburn.
And on a roll, the first pass to this side is to Jeremy Stevens, so he goes to the tight end again. And Michael Lewis makes the tackle, and we take a look at Hasselbeck, who started his career at Green Bay, was there backing up Brett Favre for a couple of years, then went over to Seattle, has made nice, steady progress to the point where this season he comes into the game tonight with a very good pass rating of 88.8, 14 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
It's interesting that both passes, the first 2 ones have been movement passes. He sprinted to the right, and then the second pass, bootleg to the left.
Both times to Stevens, the tight end. To the air again, and that is caught. And Stevens has caught the first 3 passes of the game across the 50 to the 47-yard line. He did not have a catch last week against the Giants, and he starts with 3 on the first drive tonight.
Sometimes that'll happen. You don't do something one week and you say, we're going to have to get back to that. He has good protection here, and you see what Stevens does. He just works that middle and finds the hole in his zone.
And Seattle starting with a hurry-up as Sean Alexander has his first carry of the night. Take him across the 45 to the 43, so a good fast pace for the Seahawks on this first series of the game.
Sean Alexander was talking about Jeremy Stevens last night in the tight end position, and he said, if the tight end catches passes in the middle, he says that opens up more holes for the running back. He said it gives you better angles to run.
Hasselbeck spreads it out with Alexander on the sideline, and it's Jeremy Stevens with a fourth catch in the first 2 minutes and 20 seconds of the game. He had 29 coming into the game, and that will set up a third down and about 4 at the 41.
You see Jeremy Stevens, he was kind of laughing. He said, what the heck is this all about? Last week I don't get anything, and now I get 4 in a row here. But that was an empty backfield, and that's why Sean Alexander wasn't in there. They just had 5 receivers right on the line.
Third down, make it a long 2. Max Strong, the fullback, is the running back, and that is Strong taking it for a first down to the 36-yard line. So kind of an odd beginning for Seattle, a team that relies so much on Alexander. He's carried only once, but they're moving the ball very effectively.
That's an odd beginning to this play. Watch it. It looks like Matt Hasselbeck almost fumbled the snap. Then he got it out there to Max Strong, and if you're going to go someplace and you're flopping in there, it's a good flop to the left side of this offensive line.
Alexander back in there now, and they'll split the back. Strong, one of the best fullbacks in the league. Great blocker. And that's Alexander going in behind it, but that time the play is broken up by Trent Cole. Good-looking rookie out of Cincinnati with N.D. Pellew hurt. Cole getting the play as a starter, and he's been very effective.
And you know what they try and do? They want to run at Cole because he's a pass rusher, undersized guy. Strong is going to come and try and block him here. He sees it, reads a block, just plays off. It's not a very good block by Strong, but Trent Cole played it very well.
Second and 10, already the 8th play of this drive. And Alexander, who came up 1 yard shy of the rushing title last season. Curtis Martin beat him out by a yard. He comes into this game trailing only Edger and James, trailed by 8 going in, but James has the advantage of having played an extra game.
And Sean Alexander is going to run the ball 25 to 30 times tonight as long as Seattle gets in their balance. He said the first 7 runs or so, he said he's trying to set up things. He said all I do is bang it in there in the first 7. Then I see what they're doing and I go from there.
Mike Holmgren has almost gone through his first 15. He strips the 15 plays. Here comes number 9. Third down and 7 from the 33-yard line. Hasselbeck over the middle, and they'll convert again for a first down, and this time it is Bobby Ingram who takes it across the 20 to the 19-yard line. Good-looking Seattle opening effort.
It was interesting last night when you asked Matt Hasselbeck, who's your favorite receiver? And he said, number 1 is Bobby Ingram. He said, number 2 is Bobby Ingram. I think, and that's the guy you go to when you get in this situation. Third down, you need a first down, you put him in the slot, and you go to him in that kind of pattern.
And it's Sean Alexander taking it to the 13-yard line. So they've had the ball a little bit more than 5 minutes. Alexander has carried the ball 4 times for 13 yards, and this next play will be the 11th play of the drive. Timeout for an injury. 9:39 left in the first quarter. Monday Night Football being brought to you by refreshingly smooth Bud Light, always worth it. Domino's, the delivery experts, get the door. It's Domino's. And Autotrader.com, the smarter place to buy and sell a car. Michael Lewis is the injured Eagle, and they're already banged up in the secondary. He's going to come limping off. Quentin Michael will replace him, number 27.
Yeah, it looked pretty normal. Then he goes down and watch. Once he goes down, his right hand grabs his back. And it could have been something twisting as he was going in to make that tackle because he wasn't hit or anything.
They're already missing Lito Shepard, the cornerback. He's on injured reserve. Now Lewis is out. Michael is in. And Seattle, with this drive, which is the opening drive of the game, and now down to the 1-yard line goes Sean Alexander. He's tackled there by Brian Dawkins. It'll be first down and goal, and upcoming will be the 12th play of this drive for Mike Holmgren.
See what they did is they went on a quick snap here, and they have an extra tackle, so you have 3 offensive linemen on this side, and again, they don't let the Eagle defense adjust to it. They get up there and go in the first sound, and Alexander just gets to the outside.
Now Alexander. And Alexander, no stranger to the end zone, gets forced out of bounds at the 8-yard line by Mark Semino. Alexander has already scored 20 touchdowns this season. He's on a pace to break the record of 27 set by Priest Holmes a couple of seasons ago.
You know, it was interesting. Jim Johnson, the defensive coordinator of the Eagles, was saying that, you know, that they are balanced, run, you know, right and left. He said, but once they get in the red zone inside the 20, Sean Alexander runs to his left most of the time. And that's what they've done the last 2 plays. He said, we're going to stunt to their left, and we're going to overload their left.
Second down and goal. A little fade into the corner of the end zone, and it is not caught inbounds. Joe Jurevicius, who has killed Philadelphia in recent seasons in the championship game as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, then in the first game played in this stadium during the regular season on a Monday night, couldn't hold this one in inbounds.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that Jim Johnson was worried about right there. And he just stayed in bounds. That's a touchdown, but they're worried about Joe Jurevicius having that height advantage and just throwing the jump ball up there. Matt Hasselbeck threw the jump ball up there, had Jurevicius, but he was out of bounds.
7 runs and 6 passes on this opening drive. It's third down and goal from the 6. Hasselbeck over the middle. A flag is thrown, and it's intercepted by Quentin Michael, who came in for Michael Lewis, but it's the first flag of the game. And let's see about the call. Andy Reid looking on. You hear the booing starting already in the crowd with Scott Green about to announce it.
Illegal contact.
It's defense.
Number 27, defense. Half the distance to the goal, first down.
Indeed, half the distance to the goal, first and goal.
You figured it had to be on Jeremy Stevens, the tight end, because he was the guy pointing. And he was also the guy that Matt Hasselbeck was trying to throw the ball to. He's at the top of the screen there, number 86. You see him get, but I don't know. I don't know about that. You see Stevens come in here now. Now Trotter hit him, but Michael didn't hit him.
Right. It should have been on Trotter.
Right.
Eligible receiver, 77.
He's just announcing that Floyd Womack is an eligible receiver, but the call should have been against Trotter. That was the flag. First and goal, ball to the 3. Alexander to the outside. He can't get out of the backfield as Brian Dawkins stopping him. So the Philadelphia offense has still not been on the field. We're 7 minutes into the game. They've run 14 plays, but keep in mind, Seattle is number 1 in yards per game in the league. The Eagles defense, 24th.
But you know, you have a guy like Brian Dawkins up there at the line of scrimmage. He makes a lot of plays. He can be back and play as a safety, but he can get up on the line of scrimmage and play as well or better than a linebacker. And he just did on that last play.
Second and goal. They have Jurevicius split to the left. They're going to give the ball to Alexander. He's going to spin around, and I don't know where he was going to go, but he goes nowhere because the Eagles break through, and Quentin Michael is in the backfield, so they're back at the 12-yard line now.
Yeah, we talk about Jim Johnson, and that's what he loves to do. We know that he loves to blitz. We know that he loves to bring defensive backs. He loves to bring pressure, but he really loves it once you get inside the red zone. Once you're inside the 20, you know that you're going to get it, whether you're running or passing, and the Seahawks got it on that play.
8-minute drive, 16th play of the drive, third and goal. Good protection, but the secondary does its work. Hasselbeck rolling to the sideline, throws, touchdown. He waited, and finally Bobby Ingram got free for the score.
Well, that's what he was talking about. Who's your favorite receiver? Number 1, number 2 is Bobby Ingram. That time the Eagles had no pass rush whatsoever. And look at all the time that Matt Hasselbeck has back there. I mean, he's going to come back, and he's going to look to his left. He's going to look to the middle. He's going to wait, and he's going to wait. Then he's going to run out to the right. Here's Bobby Ingram right here, and that's a place to go. When your quarterbacks start to scramble, always get to the end line.
Josh Brown for the point after. Stunningly, Ingram has caught 50 passes this season. He's their leading receiver. That's his first touchdown. What a drive. 16 plays, 7-0 Seattle. Drive. Think about it. That's 3.9 yards per play, but they pick up 6.
And watch the time that Matt Hasselbeck has. First, the part of it is pass protection. Very good pass protection. The second part of it is Hasselbeck running with the ball and buying time. And the third part is Bobby Ingram going to the back line. So
Philadelphia will finally get the ball. Brown will kick off. That's Dexter Wynn at the 10-yard line. Out to the 30, Mike McMahon of the offense will finally get to go to work with 6:45 remaining in the opening quarter on Monday Night Football. Seahawks out front, 7-0. Oh, yeah. And that's what you bring to Philadelphia on a 33-degree night. Yummy.
Everything's hot.
That offense was hot. Now we'll see about Philadelphia. Mike McMahon taking over for Donovan McNabb on injured reserve. Drafted by Detroit in 2001. They begin with a McMahon roll to his right. Throws on the run, which is what he loves to do. Intended for L.J. Smith. Incomplete. Here's the Philly offense.
Michael McMahon, Rutgers University.
Brian Westbrook, Villanova University. Josh Perry, San Jose State.
Greg Lewis, University of Illinois.
Reggie Brown, Georgia.
L.J. Smith, Rutgers University.
Todd Herman, Saginaw Valley State.
Adrian Clark, The Ohio State University.
Jamal Jackson, Delaware State.
Sean Andrews, the Big Kid, Arkansas. John Runyon, Michigan.
Runyon making his 140th straight start. Flag at the snap. Left side of that offensive line, John. Of course, I talked about a couple of Pro Bowlers gone. Trey Thomas gone for the season on injured reserve, so they go to the rookie there and Todd Hermans as we get the call from Scott Green.
Offside. Defense. Number 98. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
Yeah, and I watched him play on film. Todd Hermans, Adrian Clark is playing the left guard, so that's a new starter there. Jamal Jackson, the center, starting there for Hank Fraley. That whole side, and you think, oh, geez, they'll be weak. You know, they lose all these offensive linemen. These three guys play very well. These guys are not stiffs.
2nd and 5 after Grant Wistrom was whistled for the offside. And they give it to Westbrook straight ahead. He had his first 100-yard game of the season last week against Green Bay. Here's the Seattle D.
Joe Tafoya, Arizona.
Charger Darby, South Carolina State.
Rocky Bernard, Texas A&M.
Grant Wistrom, University of Nebraska.
D.D. Lewis, Texas Longhorns.
Love Tupu, King Philip Regional High School.
Leroy Hill, Clemson.
Andre Dyson, Utah.
Michael Bower, Florida State. Parquan May, Florida.
Marcus Trufant, Washington State.
So Joe Tafoya introduced himself because Bryce Fisher has an injured foot, has it in a boot, but he's in the game right now. They're going to use Fisher in third down situations tonight. And McMahon on 3rd and short. This is something he does very effectively. Runs with the football, picks up the first down.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that Andy Reid was talking about the other day. He said we have to start him running because he starts so slowly. You know, he's a high-energy guy, and he's always kind of hyped up, and you have to calm him down. He said he'll be a little better in the second quarter and then a little better in the third quarter when things start to slow down for him. And instead of throwing short, quick passes, he wants to run them, use movement passes, and maybe even throw deep early.
First down now, McMahon with that straight drop, flings it off to the side. He loves to go to Westbrook. Westbrook, again, among the league leaders in receptions and receiving yards for running backs. Mike McMahon, take a look at his first half numbers this season, starting very slowly, a 31 rating, and then he warms up a lot in the second half. They need him to get started a lot quicker tonight.
Well, I think that's why he wanted those movement-type passes. And again, you know, years ago I learned that, you know, when a guy is a hyper guy, a quarterback, and he's one of those guys that gets all fired up, the thing that he loses first is a touch. So if you want to get him off to a good start, don't have him throw those short, quick touch passes. Let him run and throw it, or let him just air it out and throw it deep.
Westbrook shaken up on the play, so that would be a huge loss as he is their main man, not only out of the backfield running it, catching it as well. Ryan Moats, a rookie from Louisiana Tech, 3rd-round draft choice, will come in. He saw some action last week. Here's how Westbrook got shaken.
Looked like he hurt his right foot right there as he goes out of bounds. I saw him. You see how he kind of lifted that right foot out of the ground?
Jimmy Williams was in on the tackle, and now you've got Moats, and you have another flag. Moats carrying the ball last week for the first time in the game against Green Bay.
You know, it's funny how he carried the ball the first time last week, and
Offside. Defense. Number 69. Lining up in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty. First down.
but Andy Reid says that he's his best pure runner. Talking about Ryan Moats. I mean, I kind of like Westbrook. I think Westbrook is probably the best pure anything that this Eagle team has, but he said just as a runner, he thinks Ryan Moats is the best.
Still working on Westbrook on 1st and 5 now. Pressure is put on the blitz, and down will go McMahon because it was Michael Boulware, the brother of Peter of the Baltimore Ravens, who came flying in and created McMahon having to move up in the pocket and getting the sack.
Michael Boulware was a linebacker in college, and then with the Seahawks, they made him a safety. So when he comes down here and blitzes or plays close to the line of scrimmage, that's what he's used to. I mean, he just came in. I mean, he didn't do a heck of a lot other than that's the first thing Mike McMahon saw.
On 2nd and 5 now, Moats to the outside, and Moats will step out of bounds just about at that marker at the 39-yard line. Back to that play with Westbrook as he gets hit by Williams.
See, that's his right foot right there, and see how he kind of lifts it up and gets it out of the ground.
Well, he's been the workhorse again this year. Carell Buckholter is a guy they keep trying to get into the lineup, and he keeps getting hurt early in the season. That was the case again in training camp this year. So Westbrook has been the man throughout the season, but right now we'll have to wait and see. 1st and 10. And that is intercepted inside the 30 by Andre Dyson. And Andre Dyson is out in front, and nobody's going to catch him. And there are no flags on the field as Dyson intercepts McMahon with 3.5 minutes to go in the opening period to make it 13-0.
I don't think that Andy Reid wanted Mike McMahon to start out throwing the ball drop back this soon. I think he wanted to have a move. Here it's just a drop back. You see Dyson reads it all the way, undercuts it, gets a jump on it there, and he's off to the races. Greg Lewis doesn't do a good job. I mean, you have to be out there and you have to fight that defender for the ball. And when he comes in, you have to be coming back and not let him undercut, not let him do that to you.
Josh Reed for the point after. Andre Dyson ran back 3 interceptions for touchdowns as a Titan. Now his first as a Seahawk. 14-0. 14-0. Josh Brown will kick off for Seattle. A moment ago I called him Josh Reed. I was just joshing.
You're a josher from way back, aren't you?
Absolutely. Well, we have Josh Miller. We have Josh Reed. 15-yard line. We've got Dexter Wynn running it back past the 30 up to the 37-yard line. 3:19 to go in the opening period. Hot start on a cold night for the best team right now in the NFC, the 9-2 Seahawks. A special night here earlier tonight at about 5:45. A ceremony. Reggie White's 92 retired. His daughter Jacolia, widow Sarah. There was Buddy Ryan. A lot of the guys are here. They'll have a halftime ceremony honoring Reggie White. He spent so many great seasons with the Eagles before going with Mike Holmgren in Green Bay, and you've got a flag here. You know, it was very cool, John, before the game, a couple of minutes before we came on the air. Jacolia, Reggie's daughter, sang the national anthem. She got a great ovation, and then the crowd will begin to chant. Here's the end of the rendition tonight. And then the crowd went right into a chant of Reggie, Reggie, Reggie for about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
very cool.
That was something special because it just, brought back memories that's what they used to do when Reggie played here. It was Reggie, Reggie, Reggie. And as soon as she finished singing the song, they broke into it. I thought, again, this brings back a lot of great memories.
You see Randall Cunningham here tonight, one of his former teammates, as Ryan Moats picks up a yard or so. Jordan Babineau makes the tackle. I want to keep an eye again on Brian Westbrook, who got shaken up on that first series.
You know, one of the things with Ryan Moats and being a pure runner, anytime a running back comes into the National Football League, he always has the running skills, because that's the same stuff he did in high school and college. I mean, running is running, but the big thing is the passing game. You're running pass patterns and also pass protection. So when you get in second and long and third and long, you usually have to get those guys out of there.
Second and 19. McMahon throwing, and that's caught up at the 41-yard line. Look at a bunch of that 19 as Reggie Brown, the rookie out of Georgia, getting to play more and more, of course, once Terrell Owens got suspended, and Owens is now off suspension but inactive for the rest of the season, and Brown getting his opportunity.
Yeah, here's Reggie Brown up on top, and you're going to see him push off there because they want to press him and then come back and run a hook pattern. And I tell you, we talked about Mike McMahon and being able to run and throw and to move. He also has a gun as an arm. I mean, he can whip that thing in there.
Third down and 5. So Westbrook came back into the game. And McMahon down the left sideline, and the pass is incomplete. Darnarian McCants, the intended receiver, and into the game comes the ageless one, Mr. Sean Landeta, who was re-signed this week by Philadelphia. He's been here before. He's been everywhere before. I mean, take a look at his career. A man who made his first kick on Monday Night Football in 1985 in the Giants-Redskins game, forever remembered as the night Lawrence Taylor broke Joe Theismann's leg. It's been that long. And this is a short kick fielded by Jimmy Williams, who brings it back to the 22-yard line with 1 minute and 24 seconds remaining in the first period. Sean Landeta not happy with that move. You're with us at the top. He did our open tonight. Who am I? Well, you're going to know after tonight. Well, over the first 6 seasons, Emmitt Smith had 100 touchdowns, and Alexander at this point, with 5 games still to play, counting tonight's game, has 92 touchdowns. And as we said before, with 20 already, he's on a pace to score 29, which would break Priest Holmes' record.
Yeah, and he's kind of a slow starter, too, and you're going to see Sean Alexander is going to run a lot more effectively in the third and fourth quarter than he does the first and second.
Talked to him last night about that. He said, after about number 20 is when I really get going. This is his 9th carry already. When he really got going after 8 tonight, as he gets dragged down from behind by Brian Dawkins. You've got Michael Lewis, who is shaking him also back in the game now. An 18-yard run for Alexander.
Yeah, we're talking about this offensive line, and you talk so much about the left side of it. You think that the right side isn't very good, but the right side is also very good and very effective run blockers. And the great thing about Sean Alexander is he has patience and vision.
All I can see right now are dark green jerseys.
There's a lot of dark green jerseys on them right now, isn't there?
Wet green jerseys.
Is that dark green, or are the Eagles wearing black jerseys tonight?
It's almost black. It's that darker, very dark shade of green, which is even darker now with the moisture.
Yeah, you never know anymore. Remember, you used to be able to look at an NFL jersey and know who the team is and what their colors were. You have no idea anymore.
Merchandising run wild. Pass is dropped by Jeremy Stevens.
Jeremy Stevens has to be one of the tallest tight ends in the NFL, if not the tallest. He's 6'7", and we always talk about the tight end being a target in the middle and going in the middle of the field against zones. And when you're 6'7" and 260 pounds, you're a pretty good target for the quarterback. And I can see why Matt Hasselbeck likes that.
Stayed in town, went to school at the University of Washington, located in Seattle. Third down and 6. From the 45, 18 ticks remaining.
That's like Peyton Manning.
Yeah. It's the only time they've let the play clock go all the way down tonight. Great protection. And then the pass is incomplete. Again, he was looking Stevens' way. Can't connect, and it's 4th down, and they'll punt.
Yeah, again, we talk about this offensive line and how they run block for Sean Alexander, and they pass protect pretty doggone well for Matt Hasselbeck. Watch this. I mean, this is pass protection. They just packed the whole bunch in there, and he just stands there and stands there and stands there. I mean, if the Eagles are going to do anything on defense, if they're going to make anything happen, they're going to have to start getting pressure on Matt Hasselbeck.
That time they rushed only 3. They dropped Kalu back into coverage. Tom Ruin, longtime Denver punter, signed earlier this season by Seattle. Line drive to the 17-yard line. This is Reno Mahe with a flag down, 2 flags in fact, at the 20-yard line, and the clock stops at 2 ticks. Referee tonight, Scott Green, first full year as a ref. He was on Johnny Greer's crew last year. Johnny couldn't finish the season.
Field block in the back. Number 23, return team. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Green ascended to the role of referee, and it's his first Monday night referee job. Brian Moats the penalty. Andy Reid, well, it's 5 times now he has trailed by 10 or more points in the first quarter. But the only time he was able to win one of those games was at Kansas City back in early October.
Yeah, I wonder if that's not part of that losing Super Bowl hangover syndrome. I'm not sure what happens to those teams after they lose the Super Bowl, but the next year they sure aren't very good.
It's amazing, and we'll detail it shortly, but here goes McMahon rolling to the outside. Of course, out of bounds at the 14, and that'll be the end of the first quarter here in Philadelphia. End of 1, the Seattle Seahawks. Best record in the NFC, 14, and the Philadelphia Eagles, nothing. Monday Night Football back after this message and the words from our ABC stations.
Monday Night Football doing
snowing, 32 degrees, but a full house per usual in South Philly, 68,000 Lincoln Financial Field. Second down and 3, Eagles from the 15-yard line. This is Westbrook going nowhere. John was talking about that Super Bowl hangover, and boy, it's all truth and no fiction. The Giants in 2001 under 500. The Rams, after they lost to New England, dropped to 7-9. The Raiders dropped to 4-12 after they went. Carolina to 7-9, and now you've got Philadelphia John at 5-6.
Right, I don't know that the Raiders have recovered either, and you wonder what it is, because I mean, you want to say, well, it's the length of the season and shorter off season and all those things, but the Super Bowl winner doesn't seem to have those same hangovers.
Certainly not to that extent. And right now, it's Lofa to Tupu. If the last name sounds familiar and the Bluebirds are out, what else is new? Mosi is his father, Mosi Tutupu, longtime Patriot, played with the Rams a little bit as well. He went to USC, did Lofa, starting rookie middle linebacker, and he's done a great job this season.
Yeah, and the coaches love him because he's on the field all the time. He makes all their calls, all their line adjustments, all their stunts. He's the quarterback of that defense.
Now the 43-year-old Landetta lines up. His first punt was 38 yards. Sean into the snow-filled air, has it fair caught by Jimmy Williams at the 46-yard line. Two coaches who go all the way back, with Mike Holmgren hiring Andy Reid in Green Bay, helping to lead to Andy getting the job here. And they go all the way back to Brigham Young when Reid was a graduate assistant and Holmgren was on the staff of Lavelle Edwards, and he was in charge of the graduate assistants.
Yeah, and he said he knew right then that Andy Reid was going to be a special coach. He said because he was smart and he had good management skills. He was organized, and he threw another thing in there that I'm not sure he did. He said he was funny.
That he is. And the pass is incomplete, intended for Bobby Ingram. Brian Dawkins breaks it up. When Holmgren was at Green Bay, take a look at some of the guys in this picture and what's happened here. I mean, you've got Andy Reid, of course, is now here in his 7th season. John Gruden went to Oakland, now to Tampa, has won a Super Bowl. Steve Mariucci was recently fired in Detroit. Dick Geron took over for Mariucci there, and he was in Chicago. And then Ray Rhodes was the coach here for 4 years, with Reid taking over after Rhodes got fired in the 98 season. 2nd and 10. Alexander across the 50 to the 49-yard line. Let's check in with Sam Ryan.
And you know, Al, the perfect guy to talk about the similarities between Andy and Mike, Eagles assistant head coach Marty Mornhinweg, who worked with both men as an assistant in Green Bay. Marty told me Mike was his quarterback's coach in high school, taught him how to play the game. Andy helped teach him about coaching. He said the structure is very similar. They start, they finish meetings pretty much the same way. The organization, he said they're the same guy there. The difference is the emotion. Andy is calmer on the sideline. Mike wears his emotion on his sleeve.
A little bit more than Andy does. It's funny that split screen we had a minute ago as Hasselbeck rolls and is under pressure and gets it away, but it's incomplete, intended for Bobby Ingram along the sideline. They almost looked like they had morphed into each other with the way they're bundled up and the glasses and the way they call the plays with the card in front of the microphone.
Right, and when they talk, they talk the same. They have the same expressions, and you could darn near close your eyes and not be exactly sure which one you were talking to. But it's interesting, their play cards. Andy Reid's has a lot more plays on it than Mike Holmgren's.
Tom Ruin, his punt. Bearcats signaled, but letting it go is Mahe, and Seattle will cover it up and pin Philadelphia pretty deep with 12:34 to go in the opening half. Crowd already unhappy. Seattle 14, Philadelphia nothing. Lights in the snow.
He's going to wait, and he's going to wait. Here's Bobby Ingram right here.
And that is intercepted, and nobody's going to catch him. And that man who intercepted and ran it back 70 yards is out of the game right now. That's Andre Dyson, who they're telling us has shortness of breath, so he's on the bench. Kelly Herndon is already hurt. They're minus him. Jordan Babineau comes in to take Dyson's spot at one of the corners, and it's 1st and 10 for McMahon and company from the 7-yard line. Line does its job. McMahon does his job, and it's Rutgers to Rutgers as L.J. Smith makes the catch and is tackled up at the 32-yard line by Mark Emanuel.
Yeah, we were talking about the protection of the Seattle Seahawks. This is pretty good protection here by the Philadelphia Eagles. Last time they had the ball down there, Andy Reid went 3 straight runs. This time he comes out in a pass, and if you have protection like that, and a guy can get open like L.J. Smith, you can throw the ball all night on this defense.
Well, that secondary right now, Herndon hurt, Dyson on the bench, and of course Ken Hamlin suffered a fractured skull in a fight in downtown Seattle outside of the bar about a month and a half ago, so he's gone for the season. 1st and 10 from the 34-yard line. McMahon going deep, and it is knocked away at the last moment. Trufant got his right arm in front of Greg Lewis. Crowd wants a flag. They don't get one.
I don't know if they should want a flag or Greg Lewis just fighting for the ball a little more. I hate to go back to Terrell Owens, but those are the types of things that he would do. I mean, that ball is in the air. You have to go get it. I mean, I think that Greg Lewis has as much chance. I mean, you got to fight. You got to get your right shoulder in there, push off a little, use your body to get in a little better position to make that catch to help your quarterback out.
Didn't do it. It's 2nd down and 10 now. And he started the game 3 out of 7 for 51 yards. Short drop, intercepted again, and going all the way to the end zone will be the rookie Lofa Tatupu. And Mr. Mosi Tatupu is smiling in front of his television set right now as his young pup has just run it back 38 yards for a touchdown, the first of his career.
Yeah, you're going to see Tatupu. He's just reading the eyes. He's just going to go back and just read the eyes of the quarterback. He's playing zone. The minute he sees Mike McMahon look to his left, Tatupu gets a jump on it, undercuts it, intercepts it. Good read in a zone defense by the middle linebacker.
Josh Brown to bang it through. So the Seattle Seahawks perennially having difficulty in the Eastern time zone. But at the moment, they are the kings of the East. 21-0.
For Bud Light, I'm going to be attempting one of the most dangerous stunts I have ever performed. I'm actually going to listen to my girlfriend. Pumpkin, it's me. Pumpkin?
I just think that this is the crossroads. We've reached it, and I need to know how you feel. So, what do you think?
Time! Everybody focus! Get him out! Oh, Dad! Look at his legs, look at his arms. Don't give up on me. Stay with him.
Here we go. Action. Hit one. Beautiful.
Bud Light.
Here's a Bud Light, Ted.
Refreshingly smooth Bud Light. Always worth it.
I'm all right.
He's good. He's
okay.
Next weekend on the Disney Company, Monday Night Football, Saints Falcons from Atlanta. Mike Vick and company. Brett Favre in action on Sunday night on ESPN. Lions Packers from Green Bay. 21-0. Seahawks on top, trying to go to 10-2. Trying to win their 8th straight game. Dexter Wynn feels the kick. From the 12, he brings it back out to the 28-yard line. Here's Sam Ryan.
Al, you're talking about Lofa Tatupu and his dad, Mosi. His dad's name actually didn't pave the road to the NFL for him. In fact, Lofa told me he wasn't even recruited coming out of high school. He went to Maine because he didn't have any other choice. So after a year there, he sent film and a letter to Pete Carroll at USC, his dad's alma mater. He transferred there. He told me he felt like, quote, a charity case at USC because he was in his dad's shadow. He did make a name for himself, earning first-team All-American honors last year, went second round in the draft last year. Now he's the leading tackler for the Seahawks, and Mike Holmgren said he should be in contention for Rookie of the Year.
He didn't hurt himself with that last interception and return. Meanwhile, as McMahon came out, it's Philadelphia, so the crowd was at least half the crowd booing, and they're to the point when they're ready to see Coy Detmer come into the game.
Yeah, but if Coy Detmer is thinking, he's a guy that can manage a game, and if your defense is playing well and your running game is going, you can get play action pass, and Coy Detmer can do some of those kinds of things. I don't know that he would say, okay, give me the game now. We're down 21-0. Let me have it.
Put in Jaws as in Ron Jaworski. Put him and Randall Cunningham's in the stadium tonight.
That's what they need, is one of those slingers.
Absolutely. 2nd down and 8. McMahon rolling to his right. Under pressure. Steps out of bounds. It'll be 3rd down upcoming. Run out by Chartrick Darby.
Yeah, you talk about Chartrick Darby, and he's one of those guys that has a good motor, too. And I don't know if this Seattle defense is really good enough to be a championship defense, but I know that they have a lot of guys with good motors. Grant Wistrom is that kind of guy. Bryce Fisher is that guy. Chuck Darby is that guy. We talked about Tutufu. He's that kind of guy. And once you get guys playing like that, playing fast, playing hard, good things can happen, even though you are inexperienced a little.
3rd down and 4. McMahon checks down. Completes it for a 1st down up to the 44. To Brian Westbrook. On the subject of the Seattle defense, as you look at McMahon picking up the 1st down, Ray Rhodes is their defensive coordinator, but Ray suffered what they called a mild stroke at the beginning of the season. So Ray's been in the office, but he doesn't travel. So Ray is back home. John Marshall was their linebackers coach. They've now made John the defensive coordinator in Ray's absence. And he takes care of the Seattle defense in the absence of Rhodes, the ex-Philadelphia coach. All the best to Ray. We hope his recovery goes very well, as Westbrook picks up a couple right here.
Right, and you say Ray is there for the meetings and the preparation, but not only is he not at the games, but they also don't let him go in the practice field.
Right, and that's Mike Holmgren. That's his choice, and you don't fool around these days. And the coaches are stressed out anyway. I don't have to tell you. Well, you're the only coach who's not. You figured it out a long time ago. You got off the field. You got off airplanes. It's perfect. 2nd down and 8. McMahon going deep over the middle, and that's incomplete.
But it is a tough business now, and I will say that it's a lot tougher for these guys than it was when I coached with this, salary cap and these high salaries and free agency and all these things that these coaches have to deal with. It's very, very difficult.
And then you're held up to the candle every day on talk radio, in the newspapers. I mean, it's incessant.
And then Mike Holmgren says something about officiating last week, and then they fine him, and then they tell him he can't talk to the officials in New York for 2 more weeks.
Cost him $10,000. And McMahon will go down. He gets sacked here by Leroy Hill. We talked about the rookie Tatupo. Leroy Hill is a rookie from Clemson. Jamie Sharper hurt, so he gets a chance to start here and gets the sack.
Leroy Hill, you're going to see him right up the middle. He's just coming. He's right there in that A gap, standing right there, and the ball snaps, and he just blows through the hole.
Vendetta. Caught at the 25-yard line, and Jimmy Williams will run it back to the 32-yard line. Flag down.
So if Mike Holmgren has a complaint about this game, he cannot call the league office and talk about it. Now, they're going to review this game, the officials will, but they're not going to let him talk about it.
Number 35. 5-yard penalty.
I'm not sure I know that means anything, because they're not going to change anything. The coaches, a lot of administrators will talk to the league office during the week, send them the tape or whatever, discuss certain plays. And it's pretty well known that, from time to time, the one thing about the league, and Mike Pereira in particular, he's a very honest guy. The officials blow something, he'll normally tell the coach, because it's pretty evident. I mean, everybody's seen it on television. As Green goes over with Holmgren here. But Mike said, I should have been more circumspect in what I said.
First down.
That always happens in this league. After the game on Monday and Tuesday, complain, and then they have to apologize on Wednesday and Thursday.
And that's after they won the game. Mike Holmgren's team on top 21-0 over Andy Reid's Philadelphia Eagles. 8:29 to play in the opening half. Great start for Seattle. Their offense on the field right now. 33-yard line. Hasselbeck hands the ball. Alexander bounces it outside, but from no gain and another penalty.
The Eagles are going to get back into this game. I think they're going to have to come up with a play on defense. So, a big play, a turnover, maybe an interception, take it back in the end zone. Something like that to get this thing stopped and turned around.
Defense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
Look at the play call cards of both of these head coaches. It started with Mike Holmgren's. Now, there's Mike's, and his is not color-coded. It's not a lot of plays on it either. It's smaller and simpler. And that's how it started, and look what Andy Reid made out of it. He made a bigger card. He got plays all over the place, and he got color codes for everything you could want to call.
And he put a lot of plays in the margin and underneath as well. So it's almost like, he has it boxed out, but then he runs, there it is. He runs out of room, so he's got stuff off on the right. He's got stuff on the bottom. He's going to need every one of those calls tonight to get back in the game.
Yeah, and that thing is about twice the size of Mike Holmgren's, and it doesn't even have any TO plays on it anymore. Remember the first time that we looked on it, he had plays for 3 players, and one was TO, and that was the biggest section. Then he had one for Brian Westbrook, and he had one for L.J. Smith. He had 3 categories of plays for special players.
2nd and 4. Alexander to the 45. Mike Holmgren won't need as many plays tonight with a 3-touchdown lead and a running back like Alexander. Of course, you're not thinking about chewing up the clock in the first half, but they are perfectly positioned with a big lead in the second half to use a lot of clock with this guy.
Mike Holmgren was saying last night, he said, I really want to attempt to run tonight. And he's one of those coaches, and Andy Reid is the same way, that once they get off on a passing tangent, they have a tough time getting back to the run sometimes. But he said he really wants to stay with it tonight.
Alexander already his 15th carry. Hit by Jeremiah Trotter, the middle linebacker. Talking about Seattle, the problems they have when they fly east. And, of course, it's a long trip, obviously, coming from Seattle, any place in the Eastern time zone. And through the years, it's been very, very difficult. In fact, Seattle, when you take a look at them this year, the only 2 losses against Jacksonville and Washington. And there it is from 2003 till now, 1-7 in the East. And in the other time zones, 27-8. Go west, young man, said Horace Greeley, and stay there.
Well, you know what it is? They play, all those losses were 1 o'clock games, and it's tough to play a 1 o'clock game on the East Coast.
Alexander, yeah, that's the addendum to what we just showed you. 1-7 in the East. The 7 losses at 1. The 1 win a couple of years ago at Tampa Bay at 4 o'clock. And now tonight, you see, the key is to either go at 4 o'clock or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, because then it's more normal. Because if you think, you know, at 1 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock back there. And I remember this when we used to travel that way. But it's not only the game, it's your whole thing. I mean, if you get up, you know, 5 hours before the game, you know, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. You know, and your pregame meal is at 6 o'clock in the morning. And things that are very unnatural to you, you have to do when you play 1 o'clock games on the East Coast.
And Eggs Benedict don't make for a very good pregame meal. On 3rd down and 8, the pass is thrown behind Joe Jaravicius, and it's 4th down with 5.5 minutes to go in the half.
You would be surprised what guys have for pregame meals any time of the day.
Have you ever seen anybody have Eggs Benedict for a pregame meal?
You know, I used to have a rule they could have anything they wanted, and so they would just put in their order. Yeah, I mean, I had Eggs Benedict. I had guys that had ice cream sundaes. I had, you know, waffles, hamburgers, steaks. I mean, just, it's as wide a variety as you could possibly think of.
Tom Ruin to punt. Now, of course, every team has a nutritionist. Reno Mahi. Drive down up to the 26-yard line. Well, not literally a nutritionist, but, you know, I mean, everything is so overdone now, and people come in, and here's what you should have, and the fat grams are this, and the calories are that.
Right, I think they do all have nutritionists now. But the Eagles have a thing. Here's Coy Detmer right now. You wanted him, you got him.
Holding, 23, return team. Half the distance to the goal. 1st down.
Brian Moats. So Coy Detmer will come in. He's in his 9th year from Colorado. We'll see him when the Eagles have the ball as we come back in a moment. To describe that, ugly. 2 interceptions, both returned for touchdowns. 3 punts. McMahon's on the bench. Detmer's in the game. And Coy Detmer, the backup to McNabb, since Donovan got here, will hand the ball off as they pick up some breathing space here, breathing room. Westbrook picks up about 6. We saw Detmer come into a game when McNabb got hurt in 2002 on a Monday night in San Francisco and turned in a phenomenal performance. And then before that night was over, John, as we recall, a dislocated elbow, and A.J. Feely finished out that season.
Right, he threw those 2 touchdowns, dislocated the elbow, but I remember he was on the horse trailer that game. I mean, that was one of the best games that I've ever seen Coy Detmer play.
Detmer's pass, and that's deflected, and that's intercepted by Michael Boulware. He's inside the 10, and he comes that close to a 3rd run back for a touchdown. So a deflected pass, and it's now 1st and goal on the pick by the safety.
And we talk about Tutupu and the things that he's done. We saw him intercept a pass. We've seen him make tackles. And watch, he's going to be the guy that makes the deflection here. He starts back here. He's reading the tight end. He just gets underneath L.J. Smith as he turns the ball, hits him right in the shoulder, bounces up, and then goes to Boulware for the interception. Lofa Tutupu has been something special here in this first half. I mean, not only, you know, his reads on the run, you kind of expect that again from a college middle linebacker, but he's had excellent pass reads.
Can Alexander get his 21st touchdown of the season? And 21 touchdowns, all on the ground for Sean Alexander. Priest Holmes with the NFL record of 27.
And this place is in shock right now, and Jim Johnson was right. You know, they're balanced right and left, but when they get down here and they really need it, and he's going to score touchdowns, most of the time it'll be running to his left.
Josh Brown tacks on his 4th extra point of the night with 4 minutes and 34 seconds to go in the opening half. The Seahawks, in their only Monday night appearance of the season, and making the most of it.
So how are the...
Lofa Tatupu with the interception for a run back. Deflection that led to another interception. His dad, Mosley, of course, remembered mostly with New England. He was a fullback at a time when the fullback carried a lot more than the fullback carries now. At one point, he held the record for most games by a running back in the NFL, subsequently exceeded by Marcus Allen, 199, and his son is off to a pretty terrific start in his young career.
Mostly Tatupu was a good runner, but a very good blocker. He was a real tough running back. And you could see how a running back like Mosley could have a son that plays linebacker like that.
Brown's check taken to the 10-yard line by Dexter Wynn. Dexter Wynn will bring it back up to the 34-yard line. Reggie White will be honored at halftime. Eagles here 85-92. 8 phenomenal seasons. Wound up with 198 sacks in his career, and he still had a heck of a lot left when he left here. And then as a free agent, he goes to Green Bay, and that, along with Mike Holmgren going there and Brett Favre coming of age, and that's when the Green Bay Packers became good again. Detmer throwing. 7-yard gain for Westbrook. John, I think about that as maybe being the most important free agent signing since they went to this form of free agency years ago.
Yeah, I think, that's when you could tell that free agency was in and the game is going to change. And I always thought of Reggie White as a Philadelphia Eagle, Joe Montana as a San Francisco 49er. When Reggie White became a Green Bay Packer, Joe Montana became a Kansas City Chief. I said, this football's going in a different direction.
And that's knocked away. And I think the thing with Green Bay, too, in those years when nobody really knew how free agency would play out, everybody thought, nobody's going to want to go to Green Bay. That's a place coaches threaten to waive you to. And then when Reggie White decides he'll go to Green Bay and it'll be cool to play up there, and he proved that it was, I think he brought a lot of other people in his wake.
Right, he did more for players wanting to go to Green Bay than anyone else, including management, coaches, whatever. As you say, if it was good enough for Reggie, it's good enough for me.
3rd down and 3. Swings it out to the flat. Westbrook stays inbounds, close to a 1st down. Tatupu makes the tackle there. Going to mark it right to where that yellow line.
That's one thing about Tatupu. He's a sideline-to-sideline guy, isn't he? I mean, if you run, he's going to be there. If you pass, he's going to be there. He has great instincts and great reading. And then he has the speed to go with it. You see him read, and then just go right down the line and then be able to finish it and make the tackle at the end. He's pretty good.
Well, they talked about him in preseason. They're going to be short of a 1st down here. Mike Holmgren telling us we did a preseason game. I think he was hurt that night, but Mike was saying, and the crowd wants the Eagles to go for it. That's why you have booing here.
Right, and they started to put the kick team out, and they called them back. So the fans started to boo. The kick team was running out. Fans started to boo. They just stopped and came back, and the offense stayed in there. But they're right, 28-0. What the heck? You got to go for it. They haven't had good field position all night. They finally get a little of it, and when you get a little of it, you have to keep it.
3.5 to go in the half. 4th down. Westbrook is offset in the backfield, and it's a sneak. And Detmer, Seattle says he doesn't have it, but it appears he does.
Reggie White had a move, Al, that no one else had at the time. It was called a hump move. And, Howie Long kind of took it and started to do it. But watch what he'd do. He'd just take his inside arm and just knock that tackle right out of the screen. And you say, who's that tackle? That tackle was a pretty good one. It was Larry Allen.
Yeah, that's an amazing shot. I mean, Larry Allen's going to wind up in the Hall of Fame probably.
Well, Allen bench presses 700 pounds. You talk about strength.
Number 44. Detmer throws that one behind Westbrook. Well, the fans in this stadium and the old stadium, Veterans Stadium, have not experienced a game like this in a long time.
And you hope they don't experience a lot more. This is ugly, and I mean they just can't get anything going offensively, and then they have turnovers, and they really can't stop Seattle much. Although Hasselbeck looked like he's kind of put this thing in neutral.
But the weather's great. Seahawks won here in '98. That was Ray Rhodes' last season, and he went to Green Bay for a year. Caught by Westbrook. They take that ball into Seattle territory to the 47-yard line with 2.5. Leroy Hill making the tackle.
That's the thing that the Eagles like about Brian Westbrook is he's a running back who you can put all over the place. And that time he was lined up outside down here as a wide receiver. And when he goes out there, he's as good as a wide receiver. I mean, he runs a slant as well as any wide receiver.
3rd and 1 now. From the 47-yard line, and Westbrook will not get it. That'll take us to the 2-minute warning. I'm sure Reed will go for it here. 2 minutes to play in the first half. Nothing to lose for Andy and company because Seattle has just been dominant in the first half. 28-0 Seahawks. Week 13 highlights with Tim McGraw coming up. 60 seconds with Jimmy Kimmel as well. Highlights from Reggie White's number retirement ceremony as part of our Lexus halftime show. In the city of brotherly love.
Is that guy sleeping right there?
Well, I think he's just taking a little nap.
I think he's waiting for a halftime ceremony. No, he's resting his eyes. So I've seen enough of this. But it's 4th down.
4th and 1 from the 47-yard line. 2 minutes to play in the opening half. And Westbrook will not pick up the first down. Marquand Manuel on a safety blitz is the first to hit him. Seattle will get the ball. We'll go to Sam.
And a former teammate, Alan John of Reggie, Keith Jackson, joining us here tonight. Keith, when you were drafted in 1988, Reggie was already here. When you first came in, first met Reggie, what was the first impression he left with you?
You know, the first time I met Reggie White, he had such a sense of humor. The first thing he said to me, is this the guy we wasted the first-round draft choice on? He has a bird chest out of Oklahoma, and they never throw the ball at Oklahoma. And I said, I thought he'd be a preacher. I thought he'd be more serious than that, but he had a great sense of humor.
No, just about everybody who's played with Reggie said he was such a great teammate. What was it about him that made him a great teammate?
Well, I think because he was a leader when he had to be a leader. He was a friend when he had to be a friend. And you know, anytime you were dealing with Reggie White, he was treating you fairly. And that's just the way it was, and everybody respected that.
Keith Jackson, thank you for your time.
Thank
Alan
you.
John?
Okay, thank you, Sam. Keith Jackson, tremendous player in his own right.
He's in training camp. He's a rookie. He goes in there, and Reggie White is this big, dominant guy, and the coaches say, okay, who wants to block Reggie? Who wants to go against him? Keith said, I will. He jumps up there, and he gets ready, and and Reggie gets down in that stance. He's going to go. The ball snap. Keith jumps out of the way, and Reggie flops on his stomach.
From the 47-yard line, Hasselbeck to the outside. Angle makes the catch. Close to a first down at the 43-yard line. Hasselbeck will bring him up to the line of scrimmage. If they want him, they've got all 3 timeouts. 28-0 lead. Trying to tack on a few more. Alexander to the 45-yard line. The clock ticked down here. They're almost in the not pouring it on syndrome.
Yeah, this is one of those things that's strange. I mean, I think when you have all your timeouts, you either get into a hurry up or you start to use your timeouts. Maybe because he got stopped on that first down run, he doesn't want to give the ball back to the Eagles.
2nd and 11. Hasselbeck's going to go deep into traffic, and that's caught as DJ Hackett adjusts with double coverage and comes back and makes the catch. At the 3-yard line, it'll be first down and goal and a timeout after a 42-yard pass reception.
Yeah, DJ Hackett is a third wide receiver. He does a good job here. He keeps his hands down. You see, most defenders will look and read when you put your hands up. He kept his hands down, maybe got a little push off, and Matt Hasselbeck just gets the ball up over the defender's outside shoulder.
Hackett 6'2", 199.
Right, and he had the size advantage over Sheldon Brown there, but I like the way he kept his hands down and just waited until the ball got there, and then maybe by keeping his hands down, he was able to get a little push-off on Sheldon Brown.
Keep in mind, too, Seattle playing without Darrell Jackson, who's been a great receiver for them over the past few years. He underwent knee surgery earlier. They hope to have him back perhaps next week when they meet the 49ers in Seattle. On first down and goal now, Alexander with a flag. So Alexander seeking that 22nd touchdown in their 12th game of the season. Scott Green.
Defense. Nose tackle. Lining up in the neutral zone. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
When you expect Seattle to run left here, I mean, that they ran right on that one on first down. I think if you're going to go play action pass, this is a good down to do it. If you're not, if you're going to just pound it in there, then just give it to Sean Alexander right in here behind these two guys, and that's not bad running.
I would guess that's going to be the play. Well, they're going to send him on a sweep instead. To the outside he'll go. Can he turn the corner? Yes, he can. Touchdown, Alexander. His second of the night, his 22nd of the season, and with 29 seconds remaining in the first half, it is 34-0. Max Strong also helping to lead the charge, the fullback.
Max Strong in the left guard, number 76. You see Steve Hutchinson pull there, turn up right there, make the block, cut Simoneau off, and that's what lets Sean Alexander get to the outside.
Josh Brown for his 5th extra point.
Do we have the start of a route here?
I think we had it after the first drive.
Oh, we're in the middle of a route.
Reset the play clock.
You just know when they get down there that they're going to run the ball to Sean Alexander, and they're going to run it to the left.
So Alexander seeking the rushing title this year, seeking a new NFL touchdown record. Brown with the extra point. It's 35-0. Monday Night Football being brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of Super Bowl 40. Refreshingly smooth Bud Light, always worth it. Citizen watches Citizen Echo Drive unstoppable, and Ford F-150 built Ford Tough. City Hall decorated for the holiday season here in Philadelphia. Now, we saw Keith Jackson before. Of course, can't think of any Keith Jackson. We're thinking our colleague Keith. I'll never forget when Keith Jackson, the player, is playing in Oklahoma, and Keith Jackson does him for the first time. And Keith Jackson was a fine player in college. And he's announcing Keith Jackson scoring a touchdown, and he's rumbling to the end zone. Touchdown, Keith Jackson. No relation. Well, KJ and Dan Fouts will have some beauty on the 4th night of January, SC in Texas. Whew.
Which one of the Keith Jacksons was the other Keith Jackson?
That's a good question. Well, the player Keith Jackson was the other Keith Jackson. And then I think they were both about as well known as two people in football can be.
So maybe there was no other Keith Jackson, but this Keith Jackson was a great player too, and and he was one of those guys, a lot like Reggie White. Not all good players are good guys off the field, and one doesn't make for the other. But Reggie, off the field was as great a guy as he was a player on the field, and Keith Jackson was a lot that way too.
There's Dexter Wynn. One of them, Keith Jackson, we were talking about possum hunting moons, John, about a month ago. We were wondering what it was. So Keith Jackson, our Keith Jackson, tells Malibu Kelly Hayes, well, it's a moon, but it's a waxing moon. So that's the possum hunting moon. So I called Dan Fouts. I said, wait a second, why can't it be a waning moon? Because the waning moon was kind of the mirror of a waxing moon. And Fauci said it's because all the possum were dead by then.
The last full moon we had, I think, was a frosty moon, wasn't it?
It was a frosty moon. And if you're tuning in and wondering what in the world we're talking about, just take a look at the score. And that is caught up at the 39-yard line. And then it's not. It's incomplete with 16 seconds. Intended for L.J. Smith.
There's sometimes when things just start to run away, there's nothing you can do about getting them back. And I know you say, what would you do as a coach? If you're Andy Reid, what do you say at halftime? And, the only thing you can do is say, let's play it like 0-0. And I think both sides will do that. But, when you're down 35-0, I don't know how much they listen to that stuff.
They'll end it with a Westbrook 1, and that's about as miserable as it can get for a home crowd. Snowing, 32 degrees, 5 and 6. Used to tremendous success, 35-0 Seattle. At the half. Coming up next to Alexa's halftime show when we come back after this message from the National Football League. And word from our ABC stations.
Who's the best? I think Reggie White was the best and most dominant defensive lineman that ever played. And I mean, he could play the run. He could rush the passer. He could do everything that a player had to do. And then off the field, he was very inspirational to everyone.
Had to account for him on every play as the second-half kickoff is taken by Dexter Wynn. And Wynn gets flung out of bounds up at the 28-yard line. The Eagles, a franchise that began in 1933. Take a look at that, largest halftime deficit. You have to go back to 62 against Green Bay, and that at Dallas, 35 points down at the half and 69. And then tonight.
And I'm not sure if we're seeing a really good Seattle Seahawks team or a really bad Philadelphia Eagle team.
Which is an interesting point. As Moats coughs up the ball, and will they get another return for a touchdown? Indeed they will. Andre Dyson is going to score his second touchdown of the night. One on an interception return, this on a fumble return. The rookie Moats losing the football, and Dyson goes into the end zone.
You're going to see Moats is in a single back here, and he just goes to make the cutback, and Leroy Hill gets in there and makes the hit and just knocks the ball out of there. I mean, there was no play. Leroy Hill gets penetration right there. And as he goes to make the tackle, he takes his left hand and strips it right out of Ryan Moats' hands. But that, as a back, when you see that and the guy gets penetration, you just have to put both arms around it and just go down.
25-yard return. The extra point is good. That's 6. And again, Dyson, who had shortness of breath after the interception return, this time he comes hobbling off the field. So for Dyson, a tough physical night. But what a monster night when any defender can score 2 touchdowns, as he has done tonight. But this is a different matter here.
Yeah, he picked the ball up. I mean, the guy who really made that play was Leroy Hill.
So they'll work on Dyson. 3 returns for touchdowns. Of course, the numbers going the whole thing. 2 of those returned for touchdowns. So there's not that much disparity in the numbers, but it's simply a matter of Seattle just cashing in on any Philadelphia mistake, and Philadelphia unable to mount anything.
You look at stats in any game, and the biggest one and the one that kills you the most is turnovers. I mean, you can have yards per carry, yards per throw, and all those things, and they're all good and important. But the most important stat is turnover ratio.
Josh Brown is at a busy night, kicking off and kicking extra points. When you kick off a lot, you've had a happy night. Right on Mahe. Taken down by Dexter Wynn. Wynn who runs it back. Wynn gets taken down up at the 24-yard line, and Coy Detmer will start the second half after Mike McMahon was very ineffective, 4 out of 10 for 61 yards in his time in there. 42-0.
Yeah, 21 for the defense, 21 for the offense.
Now, John, you talked about you don't know if Seattle's that good, Philly's that bad. Mike Holmgren telling us last night, he said, I don't know quite how good we are, despite a 9-2 record. As Ryan Moats picks up 9. But the one thing we do know, John, they lost a lot of very agonizing, excruciating games in the last couple of years, including that one in the playoffs to St. Louis. And this year, they're winning those games.
Yeah, and I think he feels that the defense is different. That the defense just hangs in there and plays for 60 minutes. He felt that a year ago maybe the defense would let up towards the end of the game, and he said these guys, there's no let up in this group. They may not be the most talented, but they're not going to let up.
Once again, the first down. They won a game that they pulled out of a hat against Dallas with an interception at the end, and out of nowhere they beat the Cowboys in Seattle. They staved off a 2-point conversion at San Francisco a couple of weeks back to win that game, and then Feely last week missing those 3 field goals in Seattle. That's the kind of game that they would have lost in the past.
Right, but they just hang in there, and then make the plays when you have to.
From the 34 on 1st and 10. Pressure, near sack, gets it away, and that one is intended for Brown and incomplete. Manuel came in and put the heat on that time.
Yeah, and that was from his backside, and Coy Detmer didn't even see that, and Manuel had a free shot at him, and he went over the top. That's the thing. You always want to make sure, and you never want to go that high on the guy where he can duck under you.
Seattle has already clinched the West, so they will go to the playoffs. They are guaranteed a home game now, and what they're trying to do is avoid the wild card round and be the number 1 seed. Just play at home in the second week of the playoffs. Denver under pressure again.
And the Giants, you talk about missing the kicks back there in Seattle. That's a tough place to play, too. It's not a dome, but it's very loud. I mean, it could be one of the loudest stadiums in football, and you talk about, if they get that home field advantage throughout, that can be a very, very difficult place to play.
There's the wild card race right now. Tampa would be the 5 seed, and Dallas, Atlanta, and Minnesota are all 7 and 5, and you've got Washington. And of all things, Dyson will get a cart ride back to the locker room after scoring 2 touchdowns. Pressure again, and another sack. Bryce Fisher will get that sack, and the update on Dyson now from Sam.
Now, he has a left ankle sprain. His return is doubtful. Allie does have those 2 touchdowns on the game, but that may be it for Andre Dyson with a left ankle sprain.
Pretty good night's work. And there was the sprain right there as he gets taken down by the shirt crossing the goal line. Sean Landetta. Caught at the 32 and run back by Jimmy Williams to the 40. The Seattle Seahawks. 12:40 left in the third, and they know they're going to have a very happy plane ride home. 42-0. Well, what Mike Holmgren's saying to Sean Alexander here is probably you're done for the night. The game is in hand. We have a long way to go. I need your man down the stretch. We're not going to take any chances. We got Maurice Morris in there. And John, who would have ever thought? I mean, with Alexander, and again, now you're thinking about individual situations. He has a chance for the rushing touchdown record. He's a chance to lead the league in rushing, which was a source of a lot of controversy last year when he didn't win it. But, if you're Mike Holmgren, you'd have to take him out of the game here.
Yeah, you have to, and these would be very easy yards for Sean Alexander. But at some point, you have to give that up. I mean, he's healthy. He's been healthy all year. He was healthy coming into this game, and if you can get him out of Philadelphia being healthy, that's a good thing.
Morris again, hitting the backfield. Taken down. Last year, Alexander was very upset because Curtis Martin won the rushing title by a yard, and he felt he could have had a carry to get him that title, and then he had a contract situation as well, and Westbrook is going to go back to the locker room. They put the franchise tag on Alexander. They promise they won't do it again next year. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but the feeling seems to be that they will be able to sign him to a long-term deal in Seattle. And he was telling us last night he'd like to remain a Seahawk if possible.
You know, it was interesting what he did when they franchised him. Of course, that's a one-year contract. Then he went and got insurance. And the combination of the two worked pretty well.
Max Strong. And when you're franchised, you get the average of the top 5 running backs in the league. If you're a free agent, and again, we talked about it last week with Edgerrin James in Indianapolis, the Colts gave James the opportunity to make a deal for himself. But he couldn't in terms of, getting the contract that he wanted at this particular point. I wonder if Alexander might not be in that same position as Reno Mahe.
I'll tell you what, I bet you if you give him a do-over on Edgerrin James, there'd be some takers now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right now, those guys are 1-2 in rushing. Alexander 1, James 2. 10:40 left in the third. 42 zip.
The NFL's consent is prohibited.
Monday Night Football from Philadelphia being brought to you by GMC Trucks and SUVs. We are professional grade. IBM become an on-demand business. IBM can't help. And Snickers reminding you it's only satisfying if you eat it. Light snow in Philadelphia. It's been snowing for about 4.5 hours now. The Huskies.
Looks like one of those glass things that you pick up and you turn it upside down and then it goes.
It's that kind of snow. Reno Mahe. Tackled by Hill, Holmgren, and Reed. We talked about him, and we've got a clip from when they were together at Green Bay. Mike is the head coach, and Andy is the assistant.
What happened on the screen? Why'd we run that?
That's me.
Why?
That's me.
Why is it you?
That's me. I sent in the wrong thing.
The formation?
Blue right, left short. I sent it in.
Well, get to the first 15. Let's go.
And then look at Brett Favre. Look at that impish smile.
Yeah, he knew that Andy was taking one for him.
Yes, he was. And you know what? You could smile about that because if you notice on the graphic, it's August, so that was a preseason game.
Right, and Andy used to do that,
False start. Number 69, offense. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
John Runyon.
Now, sometimes Brett Favre would just drive Mike Holmgren crazy with things he did, and Andy was a quarterback coach, and he was kind of the buffer between Brett Favre and Mike Holmgren. That's Brett Favre. Yeah. Mike's all serious. Andy's spoofing and Brett's laughing.
Reno Mahe up to the 24-yard line, and we were talking about Holmgren and the guys he has spawned. It's pneumonia in waiting, and of course Mike goes back, and Mike comes from that Bill Walsh tree. San Francisco. 3rd and 10. Over the middle, the catch made here by L.J. Smith after the 44 and a first down. Head coach connection right there. Ray Rhodes, Steve Mariucci, John Gruden, Andy Reid, Dick Duran, Mike Sherman, who went with Mike Holmgren to Seattle and took over in Green Bay, and Marty Mornhinweg, who was the head coach at Detroit, now is the assistant head coach here under Andy Reid. 34-yard line.
It was interesting you say that, the Bill Walsh tree, and it kind of started with Bill and the West Coast offense and Holmgren, and, and they took it different places. And Mike Shanahan, took it. They all went in different directions.
I'll be in touch, Mr. McCoy.
With right now, Tom Moore.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's well.
In fact, he was asking me how old Tom Moore is because he was saying there's a guy that ought to be a head coach. I mean, the things that he's doing and what the Colts are doing, Bill Walsh says is the most impressive offense he's seen in a long time.
Well, we know that Tom Moore is 68 because we wished him a happy birthday on the air when we had Indianapolis a few weeks ago. But Tom, it's an amazing thing. A guy like Tom Moore, not one of the really well-known assistants, but I mean he's been there since Manning has been there, and of course now he's the offensive coordinator of an undefeated team. And you're right, you don't think about a guy like that.
And the things that he's doing, like Bill Walsh said, if there was a job open where they had a pretty good offense and they needed a system, he could very well be that guy.
Dropped along the sideline by McMullen. I don't want to give away any secrets, but the book lists Tom as 67, but I know he told me 68 when I was going to wish him a happy birthday on the field that night. So
yeah, he probably is, but that's one of the things. You say who's going to be the head coaches when these other coaches lose their jobs, and to me, the best coordinators are older guys. I mean, Tom Moore is one of the best. Jim Johnson here is one of the best. Monty Kiffin down in Tampa, but they're all older.
17-yard line, Jimmy Williams. Back up to the 26. 7.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. Been a lot of fun for the Seahawks. No fun for Philadelphia. Well, the NBA on ABC will begin Christmas with a doubleheader. World champion Spurs against the Detroit Pistons in the opener, and then the Lakers and the Miami Heat in the nightcap at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. NBA back on ABC on the 25th. Maurice Morris, the running back, with Alexander done for the night. And Morris to the outside, out of bounds. He goes. Talking, John, last night about how Andy Reid was very instrumental in the Green Bay Packers drafting Matt Hasselbeck.
Yeah, Ron Wolf was the general manager of the Packers at that time, and Andy Reid was a quarterback coach, and Ron Wolf gave him a list of 18 quarterbacks, and he said the 18th name was Matt Hasselbeck, and he said it wasn't alphabetical order. Now, that's how they had him rated, and he went in and worked him out, and was really impressed with him, not only on the field, but maybe even more in the classroom.
This is Morris. Of course, Matt.
So Andy Reid,
Don played professional football.
Yeah, right. And Andy Reid, was the reason that Matt Hasselbeck, went to Green Bay, and he said Matt was saying that one of the things that he had him do was draw up his favorite play. And Matt said, against what? And he said, just draw up your favorite play against anything. So he said, okay. So I drew up a play that I thought would be good against any coverage. And Andy kind of said, yeah, that's good. That's a good play. And then they kind of went from there and went out on the field. And Andy knew that this guy really had it all. I mean, he had the mind to be a quarterback, and then he had the other abilities to be a quarterback. And Matt Hasselbeck was saying that Andy Reid told him a story about Brett Favre, and Andy had asked Brett Favre to draw up his favorite pass play. And Brett Favre, as only Brett Favre would do, he drew up a hook and ladder.
It would figure either that or a pass play where he catches it, as he did on the first pass he ever completed in the NFL.
Well, that could have been the lateral part of it. He would throw a hook, and then the hook guy would lateral to someone, and then the guy would lateral to him. That was probably the play.
Morris again. Hasselbeck's dad, Don, a tight end with New England primarily years ago in the AFL, and then his brother Tim is the number 2 quarterback with the New York Giants. So it's not that far-fetched at this point. I'm not getting ahead of ourselves here, but you have perspective like NFC Championship game, Hasselbeck versus Manning, and with Hasselbeck in reserve.
You know, that's one of the things we'll be getting to between now and the end of the season. I think it's easy in the AFC to say the Colts are the best. Who's the best team in the NFC?
Well, after tonight, a lot of people, two things are going to happen here. I mean, there'll be some people who will say, well, I guess Seattle's for real. And then other people will say, well, Philadelphia's terrible. Well, but they're still 10-2, and they're going to, right now, win an 8th straight game with the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I think, we go back to the original thing. Are we watching a bad Philadelphia team or a very good Seattle team or maybe someplace in the middle? And maybe we're all like Mike Holmgren. We still don't know about this team.
And it may be a while before you know about them. Because next week they play Sanford. Look at Independence Hall. We go to Atlanta next week. Saints-Falcons on Monday night. Mike Vick and company. Brett Favre in action. Packers hosting the Lions. ESPN Sunday night at 8:30. Here's Detmer on first down. Philadelphia down 42-0. And dropped by Mahi out in the flat. Well, happy to report that young Tyler is doing very well. Michelle Tafoya on paternity leave. She'll be back in a couple of weeks. So the Couch Reporter wants to know how we compare Alexander and Tomlinson and has won the league MVP. Good question. Which NFC team is the best? We can debate that. Now, will Lamar could finish up or down this year? Michelle, it's got to be up because it's already up too much after that November. But let's see what they say on Squawk Box tomorrow.
I think Alexander is the better inside runner, Tomlinson the better outside runner. But I think when you go to MVP in this league right now, I think you have to go to the Indianapolis Colts.
Back to Manning?
Yeah, I think you have to go to Peyton Manning.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense, number 89, 5-yard penalty, second down.
Chad Lewis. Yeah, I mean, Manning got off to, for him, a slow start this year. And then all of a sudden, Peyton's numbers, while they're not going to match last year with 49 touchdowns, they don't have to, but he has been fabulous. So has James. You can look at him as well.
Right, and I think one of those two guys is the direction I would go if you had to pick an MVP right now, but of course we don't.
Second and 15. So also wanted to know which team is the best in the NFC. And, again, that's at this point, you've got these guys, the Chicago Bears. I mean, who in the world would have thought that, especially when they lose Rex Grossman at the onset of the season? I mean, everybody's forgetting about Carolina.
Yeah, that's a team that I wouldn't forget about. I wouldn't count the Panthers out, especially it looks like they got a running game going now, tough defense. I don't know that that's not a way you want to go. I mean, as we get closer to the playoffs, the running game and the defense become more and more important.
3rd and 9. And was his arm coming forward? The whistle indicating that the ball was alive, and indeed that's what they're going to say, and it wasn't, and it's going to be Marcus Tubbs who comes up with the fumble recovery.
Andy Reid is saying, how in the heck can any more of these things happen to us?
So Detmer with the empty hand coming forward. Joe Tafoya knocked it loose. Speaking of Tafoya. Andy Reid is challenging this. He's going to contend that this was a forward pass and not a fumble. We have an interesting angle on this play here because his arm is coming forward, but is the ball out before Tafoya even makes contact? It looks like he's beginning to lose his grip on the ball. It comes out as his arm begins to come forward, and this would be a case where it would be ruled a fumble.
I would think that's a fumble. It looks like it comes out the back door. I mean, one shot it looks like Joe Tafoya hits it, but on the other shot the ball starts to come out the back of his hand before Tafoya even gets there.
Scott Green?
I say it's a fumble. What do you say?
I think it's a fumble too.
After reviewing the play, the ruling on the field stands. The quarterback's arm did not move forward with possession of the ball. First down, Seattle. Philadelphia's charged with a timeout.
Yep, exactly as we saw it. So they do not win the challenge. Yet It's 5 turnovers, and of course the Seahawks with 28 points off turnovers, 3 of them just in and of themselves run backs for touchdowns, 2 on picks, 1 on a fumble.
And we could be seeing another 7 coming up right here off of turnover.
Meanwhile, that's it for Hasselbeck, and we're going to see Seneca Wallace, drafted in the 4th round in 2003. He's only 5'11", 196, third year.
But is he exciting, man?
Oh, very, out of Iowa State. And again, it's Morris who's taken over for Alexander here. And he'll see his biggest workload of the season. Meanwhile, the defense tonight, after Seattle had scored on its opening drive, you had this interception right here by Dyson. You had this pick right here by Tatupu. And then the fumble scooped up by Dyson, who scores again. 21 points from the defense alone.
Yeah, they took the quarterback out. You know who else they took out? The left tackle. Walter Jones is not in there now.
The best of all worlds is Trotter makes the tackle. You're going to win the game. You're going to remain as the #1 seed in the conference. You're going to win in the Eastern time zone. You have a short week. You're going to go home after that long flight to play San Francisco, but your key guys are going to get plenty of rest tonight.
Yeah, and those are his Pro Bowl players. I mean, he takes out his quarterback, Matt Hasselbeck. He takes out his running back, Sean Alexander. He takes out his best offensive lineman, Walter Jones. And I would think Steve Hutchinson could very well be the next guy as left guard.
I think Largen's coming out pretty soon as well. On 3rd and 11, Wallace rolling. And the pass is incomplete. Chased by Curse.
Yeah, here's Walter Jones, who, the thing that I've always liked about him is he's a good run blocker, too. Just watch him get on his guy and stay on him. I mean, most tackles are good pass protectors, left tackle, but this guy is as good a run blocker as he is a pass protector.
Going to have a 40-yard field goal attempt right now for Josh Brown. And it's about the only thing that's gone wrong for Seattle tonight. No good. The Bronx cheer in Philadelphia.
Yeah, this crowd's going crazy.
Yeah.
Right up in the line. There's nothing to drop for.
And 14. Reggie Brown. They're going to rule that a catch. Philadelphia, if you're thinking about a third quarterback, they don't have one right now. So you had McNabb go down, and they didn't bring another guy in, McMahon and Detmer.
I know who their third quarterback is because I saw him in practice the other day. You know who it would be? If they had to play a third quarterback? There he is right there, Mike Barton.
Right, the long snapper.
Yeah, the long snapper. Mm-hmm. And he practices as a quarterback, too. I mean, he gets in and he takes reps.
3rd and 7. He was recruited with Bartram as a quarterback in college. Greg Lewis was the intended receiver there. Of course, for the Eagles, you go back to, and we were here 3 weeks ago, and you talk about the roof caving in on one play. Because when the Eagles, as Landetta kicks it to Jimmy Williams, I mean, Philadelphia is still in the hunt. Despite that, we're going through the whole Owens thing, all that turmoil. And then McNabb fighting through injury, and this is a game they should have won. And then this, Roy Williams with the interception. And Dallas pulls off a miracle win, and then McNabb gets hurt. So you lose your quarterback, you lose the game, and in effect, the season went down the drain as well on one play.
Yeah, because, as you say, they had Dallas beaten. I mean, they had dominated them the whole way, and even if they just run the ball out there, they probably would have been okay. But then, McNabb throws that interception to Roy Williams. There's no one out there. And then, being the competitor he is and the instincts, he goes to make the tackle, and then that's the end of his season.
And again, to go back, On opening night in Atlanta in the Monday night game, as Morris picks up about 4. McNabb was hurt, suffered what they call a sports hernia, played through it for half a season, knew he'd need surgery at the end of the season, started to feel, according to Donovan, a little bit better. He was becoming more mobile at that point. And then they had that game in hand, and the next thing you know, good night Donovan, good night game, good night 2005.
Yeah, and I think it started before that. I think the Terrell Owens thing was a big part of it, and that two sides. I mean, one off the field, Andy Reid did what he had to do, but on the field, I mean, Terrell Owens was a big playmaker and touchdown maker.
End of the third, Seattle 42, Philadelphia nothing, and Monday Night Football is back after this message from our ABC stations. Fourth quarter begins. In the history of the league, the largest margin of defeat in a season after a Super Bowl appearance would be Denver losing to New Orleans 42-0, which is the score right now back in 1988. Fourth quarter begins. Al Michaels, John Madden, and Sam Ryan, and Seneca Wallace fumbles. Morris picks the ball up, and Javon Curse creates another fumble. And the Philadelphia Eagles may have recovered, but they're going to say that it was Seattle ball because it was down by contact on the initial fumble.
Seneca Wallace, he never got that snap, and then instead of handing it to the ball carrier, he kicked it back to the ball carrier. So that was about 3 fumbles on one play, and the Seahawks still have the ball.
They're going to rule that he was down there, but didn't hear the whistle. And maybe there will be a challenge here.
Timeout, Seattle. This is their first charge timeout.
Well, it can't be. I mean, if the whistle had blown, I assume it had to have, even though we didn't hear it. There is no challenge. Timeout. Philadelphia, then for Seattle. 3rd and 17 after the timeout. It's Morris.
Did you notice the funny thing on that play before in the fumble? The Seahawks put their number 1 draft choice in. It was the center, Chris Spencer. Gave him 1 play, and he didn't get the ball up. Here he is here. He's number 65. He doesn't get the ball up to Seneca Wallace. So Mike Holmgren, even though he has this big lead, he takes his number 1 draft choice, puts him in for 1 play, fumbles, it takes him out. Toback goes back in.
Yeah, Robbie Toback says thanks a lot.
He's probably over there having a cup of that cider. The next thing he knows, he's back in the game.
Back in Reno Mahe. Out to the 46-yard line. If you don't succeed at first, try again. So Spencer and Wallace doing a little snapping on the sideline. You know, the great thing about our producer, Fred Godelli, on the left, and Drew Esikoff, our director, in the middle, and Joey Abenda reading the paper on the right, these guys are just like us. You know, they're not going to be in warm, toasty trucks. They're going to live with the elements the way we do. They opened up the doors tonight, and we're proud of you guys. Phenomenal work.
And they play hurt.
They really play hurt. Ryan Moats, tackled by Jordan Babineau. Well, for Philadelphia, we've talked about what's going on this season, of course, headlined by Owens. But Corey Simon didn't sign a contract, wound up going to Indianapolis. Derek Burgess left to go to Oakland. They lost Jermaine Mayberry, the guard. He went to New Orleans. Not that you can't withstand those losses. A lot of teams, lose guys in the offseason. But then you just compound it with the Owens thing and the McNabb injury. Buckhalter getting hurt in training camp and on and on and on it's gone. Tupu makes the tackle behind the line of scrimmage. And don't forget Todd Pinkston. He would have been the other wideout next to Owens. He was gone. And Hank Fraley, they lost him in midseason to a shoulder injury. Trey Thomas, a Pro Bowler. Owens, McNabb, Lito Shepard. Brian Westbrook spraining a foot tonight. Hasn't played very much.
I don't know if it really has anything to do with it, but sometimes I think losing, makes you have more injury. You ever notice we did 3 Indianapolis Colts games this year, and they had the same guys playing every game. They never had an injury.
Through Mahi's hands. It's one of those years, and we've seen it for year after year. You need a little bit of luck, and maybe it does come with winning, but the teams that go the farthest are the teams that, for the most part, don't have those injuries that can take your season and just send it into a dumpster.
And I think that's one of the big reasons for the Colts this year.
Better with a mini shank job, and you got a flag down. Landetta gets contacted, so you might have a running into the kicker.
Looked like it was right down there by the snapper. About Mike Bartram.
It's going to be a hold. It was 4th down
Holding.
and 11.
Offense, 88. Penalty is declined. First down.
That was Mike Bartram, the holder. He was holding way, way back.
And number 3 quarterback. Back to the Iditarod as you take a look at the numbers for the Eagles quarterbacks tonight. 3 interceptions, 2 of them run back for touchdowns. McMahon started, then Detmer. Now you've got Seneca Wallison. Chris Spencer, the center, does come back. Morris. John, there's always a story you want to tell when you're on the air for years. You just don't have the time to do it, as you love to say, a game breaks out. I'm doing a college football game for ABC in 1978. Frank Broyles is my partner. Great coach. He just retired as the Arkansas coach and still is the AD. And we're talking about coaching trees. So we're doing a game at Stanford. We meet with the coach. We get back in the car. 10-minute ride to the production meeting. And I'll never forget, Frank says to me, he says, that young coach we just met with? He is the most impressive young coach I have ever been around. Stanford, 1978, as Wallace gives it to Morris. Of course, that man's name was Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh then gets hired by the 49ers in 79, and the rest is history. And on they go to the Super Bowl championships and Bill to the Hall of Fame. And just in that 1 hour and a half meeting, Frank spotted him and said, most impressive young coach I have ever seen.
Well, I mean, Bill was very, very impressive as an assistant, and then he went there to Cincinnati with Paul Brown, and I think that you talk about the all-time great coaches, and Paul Brown was one of those guys, and I think Bill was bright and knew a lot about football before that, but I think he really developed his mind with Paul Brown in
Cincinnati, and that was before Stanford, and then on to San Francisco. And I swear to you, in the second 5 minutes of that conversation, I've told you the story off the air, of course, the other thing Broyle says to me, and Frank from Arkansas, he said, we have a young man who's the Attorney General down here. Someday he'll be the President of the United States. Of course, I'd never heard of the guy at that point. So 14 years later, when Bill Clinton gets elected, I had to call Frank, after the Walsh-Clinton-Quinella, and I said, now listen, I said, who do you like in the 4th at Santa Anita tomorrow?
Frank knows his people. You don't know if Frank knows his horses.
Horses, exactly.
Now, there are some people you just know that. You talk to them. This person is something special. They're going to be someone or something.
Mm-hmm. That was a pretty good call.
So I'll tell one that I've always wanted to tell, and it's about Reggie White. And being an inspiration, Reggie always wanted a bus like mine. And he'd always say, hey, give me a bus like you. Now, I know Reggie well, and Reggie meant free. He wanted a free bus. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, Reggie finally got a bus. And he gets it out in California, drives it all the way across country. So I said, where'd you get the drivers? And he said, I drove it. And I said, well, did you have another driver? He said, yes, Sarah. He said, Sarah and I drove it across the country. I said, well, where'd you take the lessons? He said, we didn't take any lessons. I said, I got drivers. I think it's like flying an airplane. I never touched my bus. This is in Green Bay. It's a true story. I went out in the parking lot and I said, look, if Reggie can do it and Sarah can do it, and I said, hey, did you sleep when Sarah was driving? And he said, yeah, I slept when Sarah was driving. I said, okay, if Sarah can drive it and you can drive the bus, it can't be that hard. I went out in the parking lot. I told my drivers, I said, let me get in here. I'm going to drive this thing. And I started driving it around the parking lot in Green Bay.
Now that's
inspiration from Reggie White.
Unbelievable. Mahe from the 28. Now that's a woman. Brings home the bacon, cooks it, and drives a bus.
Yeah, and then I talked to Sarah about that, and she said not only that, of course he could sleep when I drove because I was a lot better driver than he was.
The elements finally got to the boys downstairs.
Yep, blew right through into the truck.
The whole thing, Steve Nagelson in the back row, he's already under 2 feet of snow. But on we go from the 39-yard line on first down. Detmer throws, and that pass is incomplete.
Getting back to this Seattle team, I think they have plenty of offense. And again, the defense, we talked about Mike Holmgren saying, I'm not sure exactly how good we are. I really don't know this team that well, and that has to be the part. But the longer they can go, I mean, you have these young guys and they have high motors and all that stuff. Then the more they play, pretty soon they're not young, inexperienced guys. And I think that's where they're getting a little help tonight. I think if I had an offensive lineman I could take and say, okay, pick one, I think right now I'd take that guy, Welder Jones.
Snap, false start, left guard, offense, 5-yard penalty, second down.
Jones he's become a perennial Pro Bowler. 9th year, picked in the first round back in '97.
Yeah, remember for 3 or 4 years he was a franchise player and he'd never go to training camp and he'd come in the week the season would start. They finally signed him to a long-term contract this year.
And Orlando Pace was taking a page out of his book, too.
And then he did the same thing, and I think Orlando Pace signed a contract this year. But those are two of the best. One, Jonathan Ogden, is in that group. But I think that this guy is probably a better run blocker than those guys.
And when you've got Alexander running behind you, it's one of the reasons that Sean almost won the rushing title last year. He is out in front this season as we head into the second week of December. Mahe with the catch. Ball loose. Stays down.
One thing that has impressed me about this Seattle Seahawks defense, and of course I know they're ahead 42-0 and all that, but they've tackled well. And I think that's a big thing today. As the season goes on, teams seem to get beaten down a little, and then their tackling starts to slide. But this team looked like a pretty good tackling team. Sean Landetta wanted to get a practice shot in.
The same thing. Why not? Stay warm.
It was an ugly practice
Illegal
shot.
Snap infraction. Center, 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
Bartram again.
Yeah, well, he got canned the last time. Remember when he was called for that holding penalty? They just canned him, just ran right over him. He was on his back and grabbing the guy who was on top of him, and they called him for a holding penalty, and now he's having an infraction. He's trying to keep that guy off him. You can't do that in high school football. You can't do it in college football. Get over the center like that and can him.
Nico Kudavidis. And then his punt will go out at about the 22-yard line. Well, Dyson may be back in the locker room with that sprained ankle. But what a night for Andre. 2 touchdowns. One on an interception return. The other on the run back of a fumble. 42-0 Seattle.
Wear. And this holiday season, enjoy free shipping. Call 877-NFL-SHOP or go to NFLShop.com.
Ted Danton and Boston Legal's Julie Bowen on an all-new Jimmy Kimmel Live ABC Late Night Tonight. Seattle on top by a score of 42-0.
Largest shutout in Monday night history. 1987, remember it well, San Francisco beat Chicago 41-0. So recall in that game, John, the 49ers had a huge lead at the half. And all I envisioned was Mike Ditka just blowing the plaster off the walls in the locker room at halftime.
Yeah, sometimes it gets so bad, though, that, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you just call in the dogs and put out the fire. The hunt's over, and you go to get on to the next one. Remember that happened to me once in Kansas City. I mean, we just couldn't get anything. I mean, everything we did, it would run. And I said, the heck with it. I just took all my guys out, put other guys in, and said, just finish the game. Let's get the heck out of here.
Second and 10. Leonard Weaver. Well, this hunt is over.
This hunt has been over.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's over in another way too. But
and it has to be it has to be tough for both of these coaches. I mean, Mike Holmgren. Andy Reid was not only his assistant and disciple, but he's one of his best friends. And I mean, you want to win, you want to beat everyone, but you don't want anyone to be embarrassed. And I think the Eagles have been embarrassed tonight.
Mm-hmm. And the Giants will be coming here on Sunday. And then where do the Eagles begin now to regroup? I mean, for starters, John, McMahon or Detmer?
I think they have to go with Detmer. I mean, I just think that they have to try and get a little running game going and get some play action pass and hope their defense can hold the Giants down and play that kind of game. I think that Mike McMahon is just too much of a wild cannon.
Fourth down, Tom Ruin into punt. Again, the Eagles do not have another quarterback besides those two. Cowboys can't be too happy either because they need a Giants loss next week. Division leaders, Indy, of course, undefeated. Denver lost yesterday, so the Bronx and the Bengals each with 9-3 records. New England on top in the AFC East. And then the wild card race has Jacksonville at 9-3. They'd be number 5, Kansas City and San Diego, with one meeting between those two teams still to come, each at 8-4. And Pittsburgh in jeopardy right now.
Other than Indy of that group, I think Cincinnati's the best team I've seen.
Boy,
Cincinnati and San Diego.
That was as if they needed a validating win. They didn't, but knocking off Pittsburgh yesterday.
No, they're good. They're the real deal.
So as the clock strikes midnight, Moats gets taken down by Babineau. 4.5 to go before the Seahawks can go out to the airport, get de-iced, and head back to the great Northwest.
One thing about Andy Reid, I was talking to his wife last night or the other night, and I said, how's Andy taking this? And she said, taking what? He's fine. And when he comes home, nothing bothers him. That's great.
He is, and you described him before as unflappable, and I guess he would be as unflappable as any coach in the NFL.
Right, and if you're even keel, then that means that, that when things go bad, you kind of are the same guy that you are when things are going well, and that's hard to do. And I know it's hard for any competitor to do, and Andy Reid's a competitor, and I know that I could never do it. But if anyone could do it and be even keel when things are going this badly, it's Andy Reid.
And I think it's paid off through the years. Mahi, the ball carrier, here to the extent, John, we've talked about this. I mean, they had every opportunity. They suffered, those 3 excruciating losses. I mean, especially the Carolina loss when they're thinking, okay, we're going to win this and we're going to finally go to the Super Bowl. Before that, they had lost to St. Louis in a championship game, and they were in Tampa Bay. So they kept, they were one step from the Super Bowl, and then finally you say, well, you can't get there again, but he did it last year, and then he finally got that one final step to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what Bum Phillips years ago said. We keep knocking at the door, and one of these days we're going to kick the darn thing in, and I think that's how Andy approached it.
Ryan Moats taken down by Ettrick Pruitt. Paul Allen, who made his fortune with Microsoft, with Bill Gates through the years, the chairman of the team, on hand here tonight. And his ball club is going to go back home with a record of 10-2. And at the moment, they would be the number 1 seed. The road to the Super Bowl in the NFC would go through the state of Washington.
He's one of those guys that has all the money, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
You would think they wouldn't be standing in the snow.
And that's thrown out of bounds.
I mean, isn't he always on top of one of those lists? Those lists of, the wealthiest guys, and this guy, and there he is down there, and standing in the snow, and must love his football.
Certainly at the moment. Another guy on the Forbes 400 right there.
You think he is, or he's not?
You never know these days.
Well, I mean, if Paul Allen's
Paul Allen's walking down the street, you're not going to go, oh yeah, there's a guy on the, like in the top 10. And that's intercepted here by Jimmy Williams. And I say that because he puts on no airs. I mean, you look at Paul, he's got a shirt on, rarely wears a tie.
No, that's what I was saying, and he's letting the snow on him.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't look like a ring of a guy who has all the money.
Right. Somebody picked up on a street in New York.
Hey, one thing, he has a good coach, though. I mean, that Mike Holmgren, it's funny when things go well, they're good coaches, they're geniuses, and when things don't go well, you want to fire them. But Mike Holmgren has been a steady, good coach in this league for a long time.
Seattle can take it down to the 2-minute warning here. Running to the outside. And trying not to go out of bounds to keep the clock moving, but failing in that attempt was Leonard Weaver, rookie out of Carson Newman. Autotrader.com postgame show will be coming up next as we wrap up Week 13 of the NFL season. Seahawks are going to go home to face San Francisco, and right now they're just looking at getting that number 1 seed, not having to think about playing on wild card weekend, and making sure the road to Detroit goes through Seattle. 2-minute warning approaching here in Philadelphia, where the Seahawks struck early and often and turned this into a second-round knockout, 42-0.
Reggie White, what a disruptive force. Look out, sack at the 3. Reggie White, strip of the ball. Guess who? 92.
As Reggie White comes up with the loose ball and takes it all the way down to the 9-yard line.
What an extraordinary football player.
Reggie White gets the guy back at the 5-yard line.
Look at the speed of Reggie White.
Back to the 37, Reggie White, and sacked by White. The contact gets sacked and loses the football, and the ball is still alive.
The Minister of Defense, Reggie White.
One of the finest players ever to play in Philadelphia.
Reggie White, number retired here earlier in Green Bay, and then University of Tennessee, his alma mater as well.
One good thing about the Hall of Fame, it's not like baseball that, a player doesn't go in the Hall of Fame, with a uniform on. I mean, he doesn't go in and where, Sarah was kind of talking about that. You really don't have to make a decision. Do you go in as a Green Bay Packer or a Philadelphia Eagle?
37. Wallace throws a bouncer. Incomplete. 40 or more points in the history of the league. The Cardinals in 66, 146. And tonight, at the moment, 194 yards for the Seahawks. So that would be the second fewest. Of course, when you run back 2 interceptions and a fumble, and the defense does the job, that's a good part of the reason.
You're right. You don't need a lot of offense, and then when you take your top running back out of the game at halftime, you don't need any more.
And the only thing left of this crowd is to avoid the shutout, and Mahi doing his best to do just that with a good run back.
Do you think the fans that stay are really the good fans, or are under another heading?
I think there's a combination. I think some of them are very good fans, and others are in need of some help at a certain point. Well, that would fall into that category.
Yeah. But I think one thing you'll notice, most of them are young. I mean, it's a younger crowd that will tend to stay at a 42-0 game with under 2 minutes to go.
The older you are, the more bundled up you are.
And the earlier you left.
Right. The younger you are, the more liquored up you are. With 1 minute and 35 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you never see an old guy take his shirt off, do you?
I bet you were giving somebody an idea, though.
Some old guy?
Well, I'm told that guy's 95.
Yeah, but he has a shirt on.
He's got everything on.
Show me a guy that's 95 and has his shirt off, and then we're talking.
Well, we've got 2 more games this month in Baltimore and New York.
So you think we'll see one of them then?
I have a feeling.
Well, the closest thing would be Barrel Man in Denver.
Yes. And that's caught by Greg Lewis. Yeah, remember Barrel Man? Barrel Man doesn't... No, he's not still there, is he?
Yeah. He's still there. I mean, the big question about Barrel Man was what he had underneath the barrel.
That's right. Reggie Brown making the catch. And Detmer, well, he figures if nothing else, let's see if we can get some points on the board. Take a shot. Don't finish with 0. One final play. And that is just short of the goal line, and Smith drops it anyway. And that will be the end of the game. Seahawks scored in that first drive, that long 16-play drive. Defense does a tremendous job tonight, and they win the game by a score of 42-0. Monday Night Football brought to you by Fantastic Four. Own it on DVD tomorrow. Rated PG-13 by Nissan, inviting you to shift the way you move through the world. And Campbell's Chunky Soup in microwavable bowls. Campbell's Chunky, it fills you up right. Autotrader.com postgame show coming right up from Philadelphia.
Autotrader.com postgame show. Here now, Al Michaels.
First drive of the game tonight in Philadelphia lasted 8 minutes and 10 seconds, 16 plays and 65 yards for Seattle as they methodically marched down the field. And that drive was culminated by this touchdown pass to Bobby Ingram. It made the score 7-0, and Seattle never looked back. Ingram's first touchdown of the season. Then the defense went to work as McMahon threw it right into the arms of Andre Dyson. and Dyson rolled to the end zone for 72 yards. Then the rookie out of USC, Lofa Tatupu, with his pick to run it in for a touchdown. And then you had this interception here by Boulware. It was that sort of path for the Philadelphia Eagles. Meanwhile, Alexander scored 2 touchdowns tonight to give him 22 for the season. And then in the second half, it began this way. Moats fumbling. Dyson runs it back in for a touchdown, his second score of the night. And the final score is Seattle 42, Philadelphia nothing. Defense does the job. A couple of guys going up on the horse trailer tonight from the D. You got Tatupu and you've got Dyson scoring 3 touchdowns between them, and they're both with Sam Ryan.
All right, thanks a lot, Al. Andre Dyson, Lofa Tatupu, a combined 21 points between these two gentlemen. Lofa, Mike Holmgren was telling us last night, I don't know how good this defense is of mine. What did you guys have to prove tonight?
You know, we just want our play to do the talking, and I think we did. It was evident tonight. A great offense, a lot of weapons, and we just had fun out there.
Now, you already locked up the division, still have first-round bye and home field to play for. How important is that to this team?
We still got a lot to prove, and you know, we got to reset the goals now. Now that you've attained one, you got to keep going. So we're pushing for it.
Thanks a lot, Lofa. Andre out in street clothes now. I know you banged up that ankle on the second touchdown. What's the prognosis on it?
I think it's just a bad sprain. You know, just get rehab this week, and hopefully I'll be back ready to play next week.
Yeah, because you do have the short week, San Francisco. Kelly's already out, so you think you'll be all ready to go next week?
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell. You know, I'm going to work hard, and the trainer's going to get me ready, and hopefully I'll be able to play next week.
I know you got winded on the first touchdown. What were you thinking the second time?
Well, actually, when I got up, I noticed he rolled over my ankle, and it was hurting. I didn't realize really I scored. I was just like, oh, my ankle. It didn't feel good. And, you know, they just started to carry me off. You know, I wanted to walk off, but, you know, I'm just happy that we came out here and put on a good show and came out the W.
And you certainly did, Andre. I know they called you Miracle Baby at birth, just 1 pound, 9 ounces. And Al, he was Andre the Giant tonight.
He certainly was. 2 touchdowns for him tonight. Largest margin of victory in the history of the NFL by a team with fewer than 200 yards. You just saw it. The Giants and the Redskins back in 38. That was the record, but tonight Seattle does it as they win the game by a score of 42-0. Next Monday to Atlanta, where the Falcons will be hosting the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. Detroit, Green Bay, ESPN on Sunday night. Until next week, Al Michaels, John Madden, Sam Ryan, and our entire ABC Sports crew saying good night from Philadelphia.
Wearing their green uniforms, you could make a case why you'd make a bad pass. But they're in the white. Another top play nominee. That's a 38-yarder. They're looking for Ron Jaworski. Instead, they get Coy Detmer. First pass tipped right into the hands of Michael Boulware, and he returns it not for a touchdown, but to the Eagles too. Next play, they have a pretty good insurance policy to help punch one in, and that's that Alexander guy. 28-0 in favor of the Seahawks. Final minute of the half. Hasselbeck looking up top. DJ Hackett. Wow. With 2 guys on him, he looked like clearly the only one who was going to come up with it. And then the insurance policy. Second of the game, Seahawks up 35-0 at the half. The main reason so many of the fans showed up was for Reggie White, his widow Sarah, his former Packers coach Mike Holmgren. That's why we saw the reference for Ron Jaworski. The Eagles retired White's number 92 in a halftime ceremony. In the third quarter, Ryan Moats has the ball. Then he loses it. Guess who picks it up? The same guy that had that long interception return for a touchdown. And that was like trying to take down a bull. But Andre Dyson gets into the end zone again. He sprained his ankle. He got carted off. He did not return. Neither did the fans. We'll have to see if they return for any games the rest of this season. If you took the Eagles and less than 200 total yards and more than 5 turnovers, you win. They had 190 yards total and 6 turnovers. All Matt Hasselbeck had to do was go 8 of 15 for 98 yards and a touchdown. I gave you the Alexander numbers. Nothing overly impressive, but as big a rout as we have seen on Monday Night Football, and the 26th time there's been a shutout on Monday Night Football. 42-0. JB and Sean Salisbury are here to break it down.
Largest shutout in Monday Night Football history,
Man.
Sean. And a lot of people don't know a lot about the Seahawks still, don't respect them. They're a West Coast team, and they don't play in a dome. They almost play in a dome, used to play in a dome.
Right.
But did they make any kind of statement, any litmus test at all with this game?
Yeah, Butch, they did. And not only to the rest of us, but you know what? They did it for themselves because we saw two teams. We saw Cincinnati Bengals do it to Pittsburgh on Sunday, and now we see the Seattle Seahawks. Teams that people wondered, are they too soft? Can they physically dominate you? Well, even though the Eagles are not a good football team, they went on the road, outdoors, inclement weather, and dominated. And Butch, where they did it? On defense. Those offensive numbers really don't matter because the offense could have stayed home tonight in this football game.
And they're now 10-2 with 4 games to go. And again, this was the largest shutout in Monday Night Football history. And in terms of lopsided Monday night games, it ties the record the Dolphins and the Jets back in November of 1986. And Sean, they
Seahawks made a big statement, but you're right.
They did a lot with defense, although the Eagles had 6 turnovers in this game. Is this the kind of defense you expect from the Seahawks? Or is still a challenge?
Yeah, you know, and I think that's going to be the difference. When you think about the Seahawks, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Alexander, Hasselbeck, offense, Holmgren.
Yeah.
Not so fast, because if they're going to go where they want to go, it's going to be the defense that takes them. They got the defensive rookie of the year on their team in Lofa Tutupu, but they forced turnovers and they got after it. Like I said, offense didn't even need to show up. And I want you to see how good Andre Dyson plays this. It's not just the interception that he takes to the hizzy, it's the way he played it, because they're teaching technique now in Seattle. Have a look. Nice job of opening his hips with Greg Lewis driving on him. He's reading Greg Lewis. He's not worried about what's going on with the quarterback. Greg Lewis sits his rear end down. Andre Dyson drives on it. Now you tell me who's running this route. Andre Dawson drives, beats him to the punch, wanted the football more. Pathetic that Greg Lewis didn't play defense on that. Gets the interception for the touchdown. Tutupu, there's your defensive rookie of the year. Now have a look. It's zone, so he's eyeing the quarterback and feeling the tight end. Tight end comes out, sinks his rear end. Tutupu puts his foot in the ground and drives on it, and then finishes with the catch. And Butchie, that's a big part. Finish with the catch. Last year their receivers couldn't catch. Now Juravicius is there. Now you see their defensive guys catching and closing it out. And Butch, that is such a big deal for this football team who has got a chance to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Got those hands from Dad.
Yeah, Dad was pretty tough too, wasn't he? Mostly.
Seahawks defense on 5 returns of takeaways outscore and nearly matches the Eagles' offensive output in terms of yards. Bit of a quiet day for Sean Alexander, just 19 rushes, 49 yards, but 2 more touchdowns, a great chance to break Priest Holmes' record for most touchdowns in a season with 4 games to go. Again, the 2 TDs just really furthers his MVP case.
No question about it. And you know what, people, like you say, east of the Mississippi, if you don't know who Sean Alexander is, like the open of Monday Night Football, you do now. And he's on pace to get to 28 touchdowns, which would break Holmes' record. I thought it was a disgraceful performance by the Philadelphia Eagles offense tonight. But I do know that the Philadelphia Eagles, like on defense, Trotter and these guys tried to play. But have a look now, Sean Alexander, great job. They like to run left when they get in the red zone. This isn't the red zone, so they stay right. Nice job by Alexander getting through the hole where there should be 4 guys tackling him. But the explosiveness, this is a big body who's playing for huge money. About $1 million a week he's adding to his contract. Now, this is what they were talking about, as Carl mentioned, N.D. Kalu, the big body that can step right through you, a bigger version of Sean Alexander, not quite as fast, but boy, does he love the end zone. And then you got the left side. You got Hutchinson pulling out 76. Look at Max Strong, been with the same team for some 13 years. And then Alexander getting in to the end zone and making something happen. Love what the Seattle Seahawks are doing. People take notice. NFC, there's a message sent. Seattle Seahawks aren't messing around. There you see it, Butchie, with the touchdowns. He's chasing Priest Holmes.
Yeah, excuse me, Holmes. He needs 5 to tie, 6 to break the record in 4 games. And I think he's thinking 30. And you know, Mike Holmgren will get him the record.
And not only that, because think about last year. He lost the rushing title by 1 yard. You remember at the end of the season, he didn't get it, did Sean Alexander. I got news for you. If he's 1 touchdown away, he's going to get about 50 carries in the game to get it.
doubt.
So congratulations to the Seahawks. People on the East and in the NFC, you got to recognize this football team's for real.
Yeah, great guy, great back. Seahawks 10-2 for the first time since 1984. Poll question time. We asked, which team will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl? The Colts have the majority, of course, in the AFC. What about the NFC? ESPN.com. Log on and vote. We'll have the answer later. All right, let's talk about Week 16 now. And this game is really shaping up to be quite a classic. The Seahawks and the Colts, perhaps a Super Bowl preview.
Yep.
As you look at that game, And you look at this past weekend, where do you think this game rates? What's it all about in your mind?
Dynamite, because we know clearly the Colts are the best team in the AFC, right, Butcher? At least in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Seattle Seahawks at 10-2, and they may be in position at that point to have already clinched the NFC home field advantage throughout. I just hope that both these teams have something to play for, and something to play for is 16-0, because the Colts will probably have home field sewed up by then. And also, think about the sidebars. Peyton Manning, consecutive starts. Edgerrin James and Sean Alexander and Manning battling for the MVP award. All these things come into play, but the most important thing is getting into the playoffs, winning, and getting to the Super Bowl, and that could very easily be the beginning of a rematch that we may see indoors in Detroit. But I hope, Butchie, regardless of the clinching, I hope that both coaches go in the locker room and say, we're playing our best, because we don't want you to go 16-0 on us if we're Seattle, and if you're the Colts, you don't want to leave it on the table and go into the locker room and say, guys, we're not going to play for the win. You got to go for 16-0, and you got to, if you're the Seahawks, go to prevent it.
Again, the largest shutout in Monday Night Football history as the Seahawks smacked the Eagles 42-0. Much more on this game and other NFL matters with Sean Salisbury. He will be back.
It really, he had a couple throws early that he completed, and then the turnover.
You feel like the team kind of gave up or quit at some point in the game?
And more Salisbury Steak coming up. Donnie Butchergrass will continue on SportsCenter with a reset. Spurs and the Magic in the fourth. Spurs up 7. Finger roll for Tim Duncan. He went for 26.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that.
But any of the execution problems on the conditions?
No, there's no excuse there. They executed, we didn't. You know, you can't. No.
Is this as bad as you've ever felt as a coach of this team?
No, we weren't effective, and when you're not effective, you don't feel good about it.
Well, it was a different game. I can't remember one quite like that. Our young defense did a remarkable job of taking the turnovers to the house. We had not had a lot of turnovers this year, and but they had a good week of preparation. We have an active group of young people on defense, and they give it a good go. And then in the second half, we just ran the ball and substituted. I'd never been ahead like that against a good football team before, so I was kind of in new territory there. But that's how we chose to play it. Take those guys out and play the game.
Mike, has Fred been on the receiving end of a game like this, and what kind of experience is it for coach?
I haven't. I not since I was a high school coach. And not in this league. Andy's about my best friend in the whole world, and I wouldn't begin to assume I know what he was feeling on that. But heck, a couple years ago when we in Husky Stadium, they beat us around pretty good. So it happens, but it was an unusual game. You don't get that many scores usually on interceptions and things like that. So, and it's tough because he Donovan's not playing, and it's tough on their offense right now, and our defense took advantage of it.
Mike, you start to feel sympathetic at some point, and it's your best friend, and obviously the game's out of control.
Well, I wouldn't wish, we typically the games we play in the games we came in prepared to play the games like we played against the NFC East. Our Giant game, our Washington game, and our Dallas game all came down to the last play of the game. And Philadelphia has been the team in their division for a few years now, and they have a lot of pride and they have good defensive players. I think their injury has taken its toll on their offensive team. But you can never anticipate a game like this. And in the second half there were, I just kept looking at the clock, and you just kind of want it to go,
many times you've come to the East Coast and you've been victimized by a misfortune that you obviously took advantage of today?
Right.
You know, what did that feel like in terms of just being on the sideline in the first quarter and saying, oh my, this is going our way?
Well, it was, yeah, it was great. You're right. We have come back here, and I've come back here since I've been in Seattle, and it's a tough trip. You know, it's a long trip, and it's all that stuff. But this was Monday Night Football. I got a chance for our young guys to be on the national stage. I think we've been pretty much underneath the radar most of this season. Heck, coming into this game, I think there were still a lot of people that said, well, let's wait and see. You know, the young man missed the field goal against the Giants. There's always something. So I anticipated a knockdown, drag-out type of game, which typically is the way it works. But it was just an unusual game. Our defensive guys made plays early. The conditions there weren't real favorable to play catch-up. It was difficult to throw and catch in the second half. One of those games. I've never had one before.
Like this one, play in tough weather, and not because of the score so much, but to have that kind of adversity weather-wise, play so well. Is this the kind of game you want to have in December, like down the stretch?
Oh, I think it can only help us. I mean, I made the statement early on that I thought our defensive team, because of their youth and because of the fact that we had so many new faces over there that weren't with us last year, I thought there was a real good chance that as the season went along and they gained experience and gained the experience of playing together as well, that we'd be better at the end on defense than we were at the beginning. Now we had a couple of games there where we still won games, but we gave up a lot of yards. I think our young guys hit the wall a little bit, and I challenged them during the week. Listen, I have tremendous respect for the Eagles and Westbrook, what he can do, their big offensive line. I mean, you know, I get nervous playing everybody. And so I challenged our young guys, and they really stepped up. I had one linebacker come up to me after that young guy goes, Coach, I didn't appreciate your comments after practice. And I said, well, that's too bad. You know, you've never played against this young man before, talking about Brian Westbrook. You know, and so he goes, well, I guess I got to show you. And I said, yeah, you do. So, but I love these guys, and they're having we're having a good year, and now we just have to keep it going. Pardon me? I think he's got a sore ankle. They did X-rays and nothing, as far as I know, nothing bad happened, but he's got a boot and all this fancy stuff going, cords coming out of it, and I don't know. They tell me it's not too bad, but he's on crutches and everything, so I think he's going to be okay.
Mike, along the lines of what you said before about you had something to prove, there's people out there who had said you had something to prove. You were basically handed 28 points in this game. I think there'll still be that discussion about what did you prove tonight?
I think that probably will go on all the time, you know, and you know, until you really, you know, while we have improved, I think in the last couple of years, you know, and you know, the idea of getting a playoff caliber team and getting in the tournament and then playing